okay, yeah. Here it is. I said, listen, man. I said, we're going to get together and film a bunch of these things. And I was like, I don't know if you've listened to much ARG or listened to this week's episode. Of course, he's oblivious. I'm like, oh, that's not good. So then I'm like, when you take this over, I mean, we can make some changes or stuff if there's something you don't like. I was like, because this is going to be, you're going to be a part of the show. And he goes, I am? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, you're going to be co-hosting the show.
Right.
He seemed flabbergasted. I'm like,
did he? Was he just not listening, you think, when you had that talk before?
Man, I don't know, dude. So I told him, I said, listen, I've already lined up Chudley to help out occasionally. Which, again, this is the shakiest backup of all time. And I'm like,
Coco? Computer system? 1980s?
I'm like, listen, but we need to, what I told him, I'd like to do a bunch of these in the morning, maybe like 3 or 4, knock them out. That way I've got a month's worth of shows, and we don't have to worry about your
flaky. Can you grab that stuff off the printer for me?
We don't have to worry about your flaky ass,
Hey, Pixels. Hey, Duncan.
Okay. Let me look at what's on the wheel here.
Oh, I haven't put a new system on the wheel yet.
Oh, man. Of all the systems, Virtual Boy. Jesus. I did put on my 3D, we're talking about virtual reality. I put those on to watch videos of this game on YouTube to get the feel
of
it.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
It was pretty good.
Oh, I did replace it already.
What
GBA is on the wheel.
You know what Brent said he wants to do his first week?
What's that?
Nintendo Famicom Disk System.
Hey,
good idea.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I like that. So you added what now?
GBA, Game Boy Advance. Hey, Brutal.
So these are the ones. Game Boy Advance. Yeah, this week is a non-stop action. I've really been a busy boy.
Yeah, ARG is coming up momentarily, and then Amigos, and then another Amigos. We're filming 2 back-to-back, and then insert disc 2.
Oh, we've got three chat choices in here. We can have a chat room.
We've already got people chatting now.
That's true. I got them. I think in this case, I will lead ARG today.
Well, you always lead ARG.
I don't always.
You mean?
Would you rather? I mean,
you're the. Oh, I understand what you mean. I thought you meant like.
Here's the problem. I keep picking games that aren't as good as yours.
Yeah. Because you don't put any thought into the games that you pick. You just pick a name at random.
I wanted to pick. That's what the premise of the show was.
No, it's not. The premise of the show is to do some research beforehand and actually pick a title that's good.
Well, also, this is the only game I played.
Well,
on an actual Virtual Boy. So, I mean, I have played this one before.
Remember how you said you strapped it on? There has never been a strap utility for the Virtual Boy ever.
I swear to you, as God is my witness, I put
You're
this thing on.
You're projecting memories of yourself strapping your phone on your head onto the past.
What? When have I done that?
Whenever you use your Gear VR.
Oh, no, it's nothing like that. No. Okay. I'm moving in. Let's do it.
Anthony works at the grocery store.
You didn't see what, who? Uh-huh.
He said, I'm moving in. Anthony works at the grocery store.
Did you see what Daniel posted on our Google Plus?
No.
I don't know what he was talking about.
He tends to bounce.
He declared that he said we are now the greatest Amiga podcast ever, and he included himself in this, by the way.
Even better than Daniel's Amiga podcast.
Well, no, I mean he's part of the Amigos.
Oh, of course he is.
Oh man, he is part of it in a weird way.
All of our listeners are part of it.
Man, what's happened here?
I don't know.
Let's wake up the chatters. How was your weekend going?
Oh, don't worry, Duncan. Aaron picks at random every week, so that's
picking at random. Man, look at how much I was I'm just killing the mic here. It's like when you
At
sang last week.
At least, yeah. Oh, yeah. Whenever
I was
sing,
watching you peg that
yeah,
thing. I was like, man.
Yeah. I always tell myself it's time to. I should turn it down.
I've got to tell you, last week's singing was some of your finest work.
Well, thank you. Did you know what the song was?
No idea.
Oh, you were one of the few that did not. We got tons of entries.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick look here.
Man, I hate that we missed Eurovision. We should have made that an Amigos event.
I saw it was on.
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch that snooker championship either. I heard it was great.
We missed out on all the good stuff.
I had 2 people tell me how great that was.
Yeah.
I was like, dadgummit. Okay. Give me one second.
Oh, I got the wrong scene up anyway. We may go blank for a second, guys. We didn't go blank. Ready?
Let me have a quick swig here. I almost bought a Virtual Boy the other day. If I could have got it shipped here in time, I'd have bought it. That's sad. I'm going to buy one because I've always sort of wanted one, but now I really want one.
Cool. Okay, I'm starting it up.
Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting 3D episode of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, and joined as always by a man who prefers his vodka martinis shaken and stirred, John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hey man, what's going on?
Hey, not much. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
No.
You're not a Bond fan. What's wrong with you, Bo?
Never
Come
seen
on,
a
man.
Bond film.
Oh.
Actually, I saw that one with Halle Berry. That was probably the best one, right?
Now you're
If you only see one,
you're getting nasty. You're getting nasty. No. Although Halle Berry, not too bad.
not bad looking.
So, in case you missed it last week, we spun the wheel. We made the deal. And the wheel hilariously picked the Virtual Boy for us this week. And so we grabbed a couple games for the Virtual Boy, and we're going to talk about them today. So before we get into that, let's talk about the Virtual Boy as a console. Now, Boat, have you ever owned or operated a Virtual Boy?
Yes. Our friends, the Lilly family, had a Virtual Boy when it was first released. And I played it briefly, but I was always put off by the sort of posture you had to put yourself in where you have to lean forward into the system to get to play it. I'm all about comfort, you know. If I can lay back in a recliner and play, I'm happy.
I see. Well, it does make you feel like you should be laying like a sniper.
Right.
In a weird
Yes,
way. You
that's
know,
true.
like with the thing. I played one. I didn't know where I played it. It was a long time ago. It was near when it came out.
Probably
And-
some opium den in Lexington.
Oh yeah. That's usually that's where you play your big 3D games. And in fact, one of the few games I played for it's a game that I picked this week to look at. I was disappointed at the time. I guess a lot of people were. I think the big disappointment was the fact that it was just a monochrome display. I thought that was it was kind of a bummer at the time. You know, it's funny. I look back now. And the Virtual Boy seems more appealing, a lot more appealing now than it did then, just for the fact that it was such a wacky leap from Nintendo's comfort zone into something that it was a forerunner of what Nintendo would be about later on, taking chances, weird control schemes with the Wii, and doing odd stuff. And I guess in some ways it's a pivotal system in the way they think about things, but it was not a commercial success.
No.
So let's just chat about it for a minute. So, of course, this thing was released way back, and it had a part. It only shipped. Now get this, Boat.
Well, when did it release? Way back is not very.
It eventually.
Way back in.
Hold on. In Japan, it was released in '95.
No, it wasn't. 94.
No, I've got it right here.
Oh, okay.
In Japan, where'd you get 94?
I was reading off your notes.
You silly dog. It was released in July 21st, 1995, and on August 14th in the U.S. So
there wasn't. This is not. Nintendo has moved past its previous console releases, where the console would release almost a year before in Japan than in the United States.
Well, and
now we're down to
so
a
what
couple
did you
months.
get for that? What you get is less games in the United States.
That's right.
What you get.
A weaker launch.
So I wonder
later.
why they did that.
I don't know. I think, as time moves on, you'll see that happen. There's less and less of a window between the Japanese release and an American release.
Right. So this thing flopped in Japan. And estimates said that they sold about 50,000 of these in Japan, which is a god-awful number. And it didn't do any better in the U.S., and it was never released in Europe.
Oh,
so think about it.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. It's wacky. So in '95, this released at $179.95. In today's money, that's right around $300.
Price of a Switch.
If you think about it, that's not an insane price. To me. I mean, that's a real wacky piece of tech.
I think given the limitations of the system, it in fact, it's in essence a portable system. I think that people were not prepared to shell out that much dough for what essentially, a lot of the games look like Game Boy games.
They do. Now, having looked over pretty much most of the games, there were 14 games released in the U.S. And I looked over a good chunk of them before we started the show, and they look interesting. It's not like the thing they took monochrome graphics and they did something nice with them. Now, I don't think we're going to dispute the fact that it had some processing power and it looked like it did a good job. But I think that the like you said, the way you play it combined with the monochrome, it was the kiss of death. Would you agree that that's pretty much what sealed the deal?
And plus the incredibly weak lineup of games.
It's hard to believe there's a system out there for Nintendo that only had 14 games.
Yeah.
That is an abysmal failure,
Well, if you think about it, the NES launched with about 14 games in the States, but
it launched with 14.
Yeah, this thing was on the market for less than a year in the United States.
Right.
So, the initial sales were just so weak that they decided that it just wasn't worth it to push onward.
Just for informational purposes, the CPU in this thing was a 32-bit RISC processor.
Really?
Yeah.
Seems very powerful.
And it had a meg of DRAM and 512K of SRAM.
Now, I want to stop you there because I don't understand what those terms mean.
DRAM is just a type of memory. And so it did 4 colors, but I think those were intensity shades of red.
Sure.
Again, that's pretty powerful. And you can tell when you're watching this that it's not just putting up, this isn't like an LED game or a Game & Watch. I mean, these are some pretty, there's a lot going on. The music is, it's got, a lot of the music was good.
And I think that it might be similar to the virtual reality systems of today, is that you needed that powerful processor because you were essentially projecting 2 images, 2 separate images for 2 different eyes.
Yeah. Speaking of which, since we don't have a Virtual Boy, I wish we did, and I'm thinking about it. So I talked to Bo before the show. One thing you can do is people have put up the videos they've shot from the Virtual Boy on YouTube that will let you look at them through your VR goggles.
That's super cool.
Which was what I did to kind of get the feel of the game, because this is kind of the Virtual Boy just playing the games. Actually, I was surprised how well the games that I tried on it played without the virtual aspect. I mean, you can play these games, and some of them seem pretty good, but with the VR, I mean, that's sort of the gimmick. So when you lose that, I'm sure you lose a little bit of what made the games more interesting.
Right.
One thing about this system that I noticed from looking at the games, I know you're not an SCTV fan, but they used to do this thing on there where they had to show these various 3D movies.
Is that Rick Moranis nonsense?
Yes. And so, but it'd be Dr. Tung's 3D House of something, Stewardesses, 3D House of Beef, whatever. And one thing he would always do, he'd be like, would you like a cocktail? And this system is a lot like that. It just does some stuff just for the sake of 3D.
Right.
It's like they took a game, like, we need to strap some 3D stuff on
Well,
this.
it's like every 3D movie, all those B sci-fi movies from the 60s, they all, or Muppets in 4D, or Captain EO.
I went and saw a 3D. Remember when the new 3D movies came around?
Avatar era?
No, well, I never saw that one, but I saw this movie where this guy, there was a killer going around. He was a killer coal miner. Because we're in West Virginia. I had to go see it as a citizen.
Sure, it's required.
And there's a bit in this where he throws like a spear or something, and I'd seen it in the commercials,
right?
So I knew it was coming. It was so realistic. It scared the hell out of me, man. Exactly. Right. Oh God! Yeah. I thought to myself, this new 3D, bam,
this is changing movies.
It reminds me of when movies first came out. There's that famous anecdote of the train coming towards the screen and people diving out of the way in the theater.
Jeez. So, will you get that effect on this? No. Although I will say, if you look at Nintendo's other 3D system, right? Have you? Because I'm
3DS?
guessing, yes, I'm guessing you've played the 3DS.
Oh yeah, I owned a 3DS for many years.
And a good little system.
It is.
But the 3D is this is a whole different aspect of 3D from that. Like there's no, it's coming right out at you sort of feeling on that
a
one.
lot of this one is it's surrounding your vision. Your eyes are right up on it.
The 3DS is more of a depth.
Yeah.
Which does a tremendous job. I've always been impressed with the 3D on that. But this has its place, and I wonder if you couldn't take modern technology. Well, I guess this is sort of what they're doing. But I wonder if someone could take and get a color version of this going, and if it would. I wonder if someone released a color version of this console, what kind of action it would get.
How would you do that though? Because didn't it rely on having the multiple shades of red to produce the 3D effect?
Don't crowd me with the technical stuff.
Okay.
Dude.
Well,
I'm just saying if you could release this exact setup, including all the horrible parts of it, but it was in full color. How would it?
I would still be against it for the reason that you have to assume the sniper position, as you so well put it. If you can make it like a modern like the Gear VR, where you could put it on your face and then I would be all in.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah,
and
I'd love to see color. Yeah, like a pixel art 3D console.
I've been talking to my brother quite a bit about VR here recently, and we were discussing it yesterday about the killer app for the VR system. We and you talked about it on this too. I would like to see some games of this ilk simply just ported over.
Yeah.
And colored them up.
It would be neat.
Stick them on there, give it a whirl.
I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't do 3D on an Oculus. I mean, since the movies, like the movie you watched last night, was in 3D. So
yeah. So anyway, an interesting system. Was it a missed opportunity? Was it before its time? Probably. Right. And they needed to work on some of the more annoying aspects of it, including the stance and whatnot. So, with all that in mind, we picked two games from this wacky contraption. I'll go first with my game, and I'm going to try to say this because it's an odd pronunciation. It's Teleroboxer.
Yeah.
Teleroboxer.
Teleroboxer.
It rolls off the tongue. The name right away. You lose a star.
You know, it's a portmanteau. Japanese love portmanteaus.
Well,
television, robot, boxer.
I see.
Teleroboxer.
Well, they could have come up with a different name in America then, because it doesn't work too good over here. So this was developed by Nintendo. All right. And so it's got some of your big time hitters on here. Gunpei Yokoi was producer, and I know he's a big. I mean, he was sort of the guy that was behind this thing, right? So
inventor of the Game Boy.
Yeah. So this game is a boxing simulator.
You know what else he invented before I forget? You know in the Goonies how there's the guy that has like the thing that pops out of his chest. Yeah. He invented that thing with the boxing glove and the hand, the accordion shape.
Yeah. I remember.
Gunpei Yokoi invented
Did Gunpei also, was he the guy that was involved in the Game & Watch? Wasn't that his baby as well? So I think he passed away shortly after this was released, didn't he?
He did.
This was his baby, effectively. So anyway, this game, again, a boxing game. It came out in Japan in 1995 and in North America in August of 95. It came out in July in Japan. It's a single-player fighting boxing game. And so you basically take the role of a robotic, well, you basically control a robotic boxer.
It's like first-person Rock'em Sock'em robots.
I never thought of it that way, to be honest with you. That's exactly what it is. You are tasked with fighting a series of other. It's just like a mech game in a lot of ways.
It's almost like this other game that we played, something like Rise of the Robots.
No, it's not. Oh, now listen. Now you're getting nasty. So in Teleroboxer, you are boxing with your robot, and you are the human controlling the robot, a la Futurama, Ultimate Robot Boxing, if you ever saw that, or Ultimate Robot Fighting. You will fight a series of annoying jerks, and they're robots who are also annoying jerks. And you won't get too far if you're like me. So this thing was in development early. This is one of the. This was really supposed to be one of the big titles for the system when it came out, and it was sort of the gimmick on it was It takes place in the 22nd century, of course, because it's so futuristic. Humans have developed new types of robot science. Of course,
that's my favorite kind of science.
What do you name it? When you develop robot science, of course you name it Telerobotniks.
Oh, man. This is a Sega trademark
This is like
right
a tongue twister nightmare here. And it enables you to flawlessly mimic the robots to flawlessly mimic a human.
It's like every mech anime ever.
It's just like that. Yeah. You don't watch Futurama, do you?
I've never seen that particular episode.
Really? Well, there's an episode.
I like Futurama,
there's an episode where they go. Bender goes into robot boxing, and it ends up the bad guys controlled by this other guy. It's exactly like this. So, anyways. Once they get this going, it's time to fight these things because that's what you do with robot science. You fight the robots and stick them in there. So you don't need much of a backstory for this. You're trying to win the championship and fight the other boxers. So have you ever heard of this game boat? It's called Punch Out.
I've heard of it.
I actually was looking forward to this because I thought to myself, hey.
Punch Out in VR. How can you go wrong?
It's red. Mm-hmm. It's all gonna come together here. So the problem is that this game is really hard. All right, let's just get this out of the way right away. I would say I'm a pretty good hand at Punch Out, and my hand-eye coordination, it's not bad. Mm-hmm. The difference in this game is the controls. How to explain what the Virtual Boy controller looks like? It's sort of like. It's got two pads on it.
It's got two D-pads.
Yeah, two D-pads.
We should have mentioned that when we were talking about the system. It's got to be the first system ever to have two D-pads on it.
And so, in this game, it's pretty interesting the way you use it because basically each of the D-pads sort of affects what the hand it's using.
Mm-hmm. It actually translates fairly well, for this particular game. Because it is almost like having, two D-pads, two hands, you're mimicking the same motion.
Right. And it's not bad. Of course, I did not have one of these to play with the game, so I'm not going to deduct points for that, but it was a trickier prospect to play it with the dual analog sticks. Mm-hmm. It wasn't quite the same. The control, while we're talking about the control, what did you think about the Virtual Boy controller when you first grabbed it? I mean, it's kind of long and
it's been so long.
Yeah,
that I can't remember.
It's kind of long. It's got the two pads. It's got an A and B sort of button. And it's got some upper buttons on it. It was okay. I thought it was pretty good. Most of of course, you can't see yourself playing when you're playing. That's something weird too.
You can't look down and.
So if you drop the controller, you're screwed, for example. So anyway.
One other thing before you go on. So the Virtual Boy, this is actually probably the #1 reason why it flopped. The machine was set up to give you a headache. In every game, there is a screen in the option screen to turn automatic pause on. And Nintendo says in their instruction book, listen, you need to pause and take a break every 15 minutes while you play this thing, or else it's going to give you a headache. So, boy, that really makes me want to run out and spend $300 on this thing. This thing I can only play it 15 minutes at a time.
When you played it, did you begin to get a headache?
Again, I can't remember. It's been so long.
I played this thing for it seems like I played it for about 20 minutes back in there. I don't remember having any trouble.
Well, you were right at the threshold.
Right.
A couple more minutes, you would have been in agony.
I will say, having played my brother's VR setup, I played that thing. I was in there for about an hour.
Oh, yeah, but it's different technology.
No, but I'm saying, when you get out of it, it does... Even modern tech is designed that
you feel a little woozy when you re-enter the real world.
It's sort of draining in a weird way.
It is.
And I don't know if it's because you're lugging that gear around.
I think it's a combination of that plus your eyes are totally open and focused and stuff is hitting them everywhere. It seems like it's harder for your eyes to relax in VR.
But do you recall if you had any trouble wearing the VR, the Virtual Boy with the glasses on?
I don't think so. I think the cone was big enough.
They did a pretty good job. I don't remember any trouble with it. So. So what's a boxing game without a bunch of crazy boxers? So your robot you have the least cool robot name of anybody in this game. Your guy's name is Harry.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Did you know
I didn't know that.
He's got a big old body, spikes in his head, and according to the docs, he weighs 4,300 kilograms and he's 3.85 meters tall.
Oh my gosh!
I can't translate from metrics.
It's like 11 feet tall.
Okay, there you go. So some of the people you're after here, you've got a guy named Johnny Beisel. this is the human that controls a robot. That and look, I love the one thing about the Japanese games. You always get the crazy backstory, right? You can't just have a series of mean-looking guys. Johnny, for example, ex-captain of a baseball team.
Yeah, I guess there's robot baseball.
Sort of like the blood type.
Yeah,
now, I know that's
right.
different in Japan, but
it's a big thing in Asia.
And then Johnny's robot's called Pagiro. Right.
So wait a minute. Johnny was the captain of a baseball team. He's a human, right?
Right.
Okay.
Pagiro is his robot. Now, he's the first guy you fight, and he. So, it's just like a boxing match. The bell sort of rings. You come out, and first it comes out. It shows you a bunch of boxes, and you see Johnny, and he's going like, bleh, 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 making faces. Then it shows his boxer. His boxer's expressions cracked me up. They were. He just looks so dope. How do you make a robot like that dope? He'd be like, ooh, ooh. But so when you see the robot, it's a 3D perspective. You don't see your robot, you see his fist, and then you see the bad guy robot. And so it's just like Punch-Out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, this is more similar to the arcade Punch-Out than the console
yes,
releases.
You don't see, yeah, right. You don't even see them. In the arcade, you had that wire mesh that made you gap. In this, you've got nothing. You just see your fist. So you fight Johnny's robot, Pagero, and these robots all have sort of a gimmick. All right, and so Pagero, and this is, man, what an annoying gimmick. And I could beat Pagero after I played this thing a bunch of times, but it's too hard right out of the gate. So Pagero does the sumo open palm stripes, a la Akabono or even Jushin Lager, if you know that sort of thing.
One of my favorites.
Where he gets in front of you and he holds his hands up and goes, huh, 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 like this. And basically,
you don't see those kind of moves enough anymore.
Those,
really,
by the way, that's an
strikes.
effective move. You could actually jack
power,
a guy up, and the problem, and of course, much like Punch-Out, you've got to know how to avoid these attacks, and you've got to dodge or block. If you get your hands up to block, you can thwart this move, and then of course it leaves Pagero looking like an idiot. Oh, and then you start beating the tar out of him.
Very much like Punch-Out.
It's exactly like Punch-Out. So the next guy you've got is Cherry Freenail. I like the fact that they give him also give him last names.
Yeah, well, it's a long lineage of robots. From the
Sherry is a fashion model.
Really?
Yeah, and then of course, why not just go into boxing? And then her robot is Prin. All right, and then you've got. I'm just going to go through a couple of these because the names are funny. Then you've got one of my personal favorites, Big Rick. Big Rick's lifelong goal is to find his twin brother who went missing. So, what better way to find him than fighting with a robot?
Yeah.
I love that. Now,
it would be great if it turns out at the end that you're Big Rick's long lost brother.
There you go. Now, a Big Rick's robot's the second robot you fight. Spokong. All right,
like Spokane,
well,
like that city.
Spokong is annoying. And I will say this is as far into this game as I could actually physically get. Spokong has this. He's a big kind of a thick armored tubby guy who can basically sink his head down into his gut. And so,
I have that power too.
Man, I got 4 heads down here right now. So Spokong, you'll be fighting, all of a sudden he's like, Meh? And you're like, so your headshots don't do anything. God, he's so tough, man. He beat the tar out of me, and I tried to fight this guy over and over and over. I couldn't get past him. This is sort of the trademark of this game, and the trademark being in our true sister show Amigos fashion. This game is Amiga hard. It gets to a point where it's just really tough, and the reviews reflected that. Just to go on to a few of the other robots, you got a guy, Kevin Pascoe. He was an actor, but you know what that means? Boxing. And he's got a guy called a Kanger, who's a kangaroo-shaped robot, which is actually, these robots are pretty cool looking. And then lastly, and this robot is called Legendary Champ. So guess what he is?
He's the Legendary Champ.
That's right. A cat-shaped secret fighter. Now, I watched a fella play this and beat him, and he's pretty amusing. At the end, he just turns into a cat and just walks off. So I guess a cat can try. When you beat these guys, you sort of see a picture of what's going on with the controller of the guy, and various things will happen. But for the last guy, he just turns into a cat and just sort of walks off the screen.
Now, let me ask you a question. speaking of boxers that have become actors, do you know, you're a fan of, you're a boxing old school boxing guy. Do you know of any boxers that actually went on to become actors later in life, except for, you know, professional boxer Clubber Lang?
Well, a lot of boxers were in films, but let's just go with the obvious one. Mike Tyson has been in those Vegas.
That's true.
flicks.
The Hangover. Yeah.
Larry Holmes has been. I mean, a lot of these guys have been on
This
TV.
cameos.
All these guys have been in The Simpsons at some point. Larry Holmes, and I think Marvin Hagler did some acting. I know there are some out there that are super obvious. I'm sure Sugar Ray did something. You know, so yeah, you're a world famous guy and you're a sports hero. You know, my favorite one ever. I mean, this isn't acting, but do you remember an old show called Battle of the Network Stars?
Yes.
They used to have it here where they have all the TV stars get together and they would do different
It's like
athletic
field day
events,
for
right?
yeah.
and they had something. It was sort of similar to that with athletes, and so the one thing I remember is Smoking Joe Frazier. Smoking Joe Frazier, by the way, beat Muhammad Ali. Remember that? I mean, they traded the title back and forth. I mean, bad dude. He's the guy that George Foreman pummeled to win the belt to set up the Rumble with Ali, where Ali rope-a-doped him, right? But I mean, a bad man. And Joe was a great boxer, but for whatever reason, they put him in the swimming competition, and Joe couldn't swim.
Oh my gosh.
And so he left in the pool, and so everyone finished, and Joe was just out there flailing. They had to go help him get out of the pool.
That's awful.
I'll never forget that, man. So funny. So yeah, boxers, unlike these people who have they're actors and they're supposed to, Joe Frazier's clearly not a swimmer. So effectively, that's the game. You run through. I should mention the way you punch in this. It's actually, in some ways, it's clever. All right. So, like you said, each side of the pad controls that guy's hand, and if you hold the trigger and you move up or down, he'll block with that hand. He can block with both hands, and it provides. In some ways, it's a lot more flexible than Punch Out.
Yeah.
It's just not as. It's not as fun as Punch Out.
Right.
It's a shorter game than Punch Out. And
There's the thing that is really different about this game is there's a lot more lateral movement. You're allowed freedom to move left and right in this game, and in Punch Out you're not. You're stuck where you are.
Well, you can duck left and right in Punch Out.
Well, yeah, but I mean you can actually move in the ring around.
And something else that's weird is the way Harry throws punches is like, for example, a right cross or left cross. Your hand, like, literally looks like it goes off the screen. It gets like,
yeah,
the guy's like, oh crap, uppercut. The timing is a little goofy.
It doesn't feel like Punch Out.
Yeah, it's just a little. You could tell it was not made. I'm guessing the people that made Punch Out weren't involved in this. That much said, it's not a bad game, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I just wish I was better at it. The sound was cool. It sounded like a boxing game should. I will say that the robots were full of character, very clever, very amusing. Their facial expressions were real funny. I got to watch some of the video of the guys I didn't get to fight when I had my goggles on, and they're all like that. They're very clever guys, but I mean, it gets really tough. The reviews on this thing were sort of mirror what I was saying. It got Video Games Magazine gave it 4 out of 10, saying there were no high spots, the 3D was ineffective. And that Super Punch Out was way better. Again, you're also competing against these other better Nintendo games. That didn't help it either. GamePro gave it basically a fun factor, 4 out of 5. You know how they do their wacky scoring.
Fun factor.
Everything in 3s and 4s. Nintendo Life, you'd think they'd be nice to it, 5 out of 10. GameSpot gave it 6.9.
Look at this. I hate to interrupt you, but as we're watching this show right now, did you watch the end credits?
Oh yeah,
the end credits.
Well, you get to punch the I did watch that. It was funny.
That might be the best part of the game.
I mean, it makes me wonder why they didn't use actual people in the game as opposed to robots. That might have been better. And what they're doing is, in the credits, the pictures of the people that made the game code, and you punch them, and they actually react. Pretty cool. I looked this up on eBay. I looked up boxing at Tellero Boxer, and it was $10 to $20 loose. And in the box, I saw it going for as little as $25. I will say this is reportedly one of the most common titles. So Stellar Boxer, it was better than I thought. It still wasn't. Was it like buy a $300 system, spend $150, $60 on the game? No, it wasn't that good.
No.
Both. What do you got for us this
All right,
week?
this week I took a look at Wario Land. Now we had a discussion about Wario and how to pronounce it,
And that ain't it.
And okay, so how do you pronounce WAR?
War.
Okay, add IO to
But
it.
names don't matter with that stuff.
Again,
if it's your name, you can say it however you want.
Well, how do you
Igor.
how do you know that that's how you say it?
Everyone I've ever heard pronounce it was Wario. That's the way. I mean, maybe it's just me.
And so you pronounce it
Ask
Mario.
the chat room
and you,
right now.
You pronounce it Mario.
Is
then.
it Wario or Wario? You guys that are in there, I want to get I want to get. Hey, I'll bow down if I'm wrong.
And on every N64 and GameCube game and Wii game, whenever you select Wario, it says Wario.
Wario.
Yeah, but you just said Wario a second ago.
No, listen. I'm telling you.
You're wrong.
No.
So
Every time he does this to me.
Wario,
You've been waiting all week, haven't you?
I've been planning
Good
planning
God.
the attack.
Would you just do that?
So Wario Land was released in December of 1995 for the Virtual Boy. So this released in August, did you say, of 95 in the States?
Yeah.
So just a couple months. This was probably the big holiday release, I would guess.
The only holiday release.
That's true. That's true. It was. Oh yeah. All the chat agrees with me. By the way, it was produced by Gunpei Yokoi, the designer of the system, and this is considered by most to be the best game for the system. So, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that this game is being displayed in black and white. I couldn't find a playthrough of this in red to pull down off eBay or off YouTube. All the ones I could find in red were some of the replays have the split, and I think maybe that was one of the ones that the 3D thing. And so, but anyway, that's why. And on emulators, I guess we should note that you have the option of playing in red or a little bit more eye-pleasing grayscale.
Gotta go for red.
Yeah,
but if you want make it hurt.
Yeah, if you want the true Virtual Boy experience, you always go with red. I played it in red. Actually, mine was a little bit purple. I don't know what was up with that. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about Wario. Okay, so this was something that I didn't know. Some people speculate that the prototype of Wario first appeared in the 1985 game Wrecking Crew, which is one of the original NES launch titles. There's a character called Spike, who is one of the construction foremen in that game, and some people think that he was the original character, prototype of Wario. But Wario himself did not come out until 1992. The first appearance of Wario, you want to hazard a guess when that was?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
This might be a game that passed you by. It was a Game Boy game, the second Super Mario Land game for the Game Boy, 6 golden coins. Wario was introduced as a villain who was obsessed with getting money, and so that your job as Mario in this game is to get the 6 golden coins back from Wario. So Wario is basically Mario's evil twin. He slightly resembles Mario, but he looks more sinister. He's got a zigzag mustache. His clothes, which you would never know by playing the Virtual Boy, are yellow and purple. The name Wario is a portmanteau, here we go again, of Mario with the Japanese adjective warui, which means bad. So hence a bad Mario. Yeah. So Wario, he had a couple of these platforming games, but he really gained prominence as a side character in all of Mario's athletic titles like Mario Kart or Mario Tennis, and of course the ever popular Mario Party. But he was featured in probably my favorite game for the Game Boy Advance, WarioWare. And he launched. Wario didn't actually launch anything because he's not real, but his character launched. This whole genre of micro games. That you play just for a couple seconds each. So I love WarioWare. I think it's a great game.
I play whatever the Wii version is. I've played.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And as time goes on, Wario's character has changed. He started out as just being a straight up villain, but he's sort of morphed as time has gone on more into just sort of a cantankerous man that's not necessarily evil, but just sort of angry.
That's my kind of guy.
Yeah.
Obsessed with money.
Right, absolutely. So Wario Land Virtual Boy, and you have to search for that because there's also Wario Land for the Game Boy. I think Wario Land Super Mario Land 3 is the full title of the Game Boy version versus this is just Wario Land Virtual Boy. This is a 2D platformer, and there's a total of 14 levels, and you basically go through the levels going from left to right. There are secret areas, there are treasures to find, you're collecting money, and the story behind the game is that Wario is vacationing in the Amazon rainforest. See what they did there?
I did.
Okay. So, he falls into this cave. He sees this treasure behind a waterfall, and the floor gives way, and he falls in the very bottom of the cave, and so he's got to work his way back up through the levels of the cave to get to the treasure. So what makes this game unique? Nintendo did its best to throw out all of the gimmicks that they could with 3D in this. So
yes, they did.
You've got these sort of spiked balls in the very, very first section of the game that swing away from you and then come towards you, and the effect is very 3D. In this game, you can play on multiple planes. So you have the plane that's closest to you, and you look in your normal size, and then you can hit this special square and jump back into the further away plane, and you become much smaller, and everything back there is smaller. Now, this is not a very cool aspect of 3D because when you play this in not 3D, it's exactly the same. Your character just gets smaller.
You know what it reminded me of was the new Donkey Kong. Like for the Wii U and stuff, they do the same kind of thing where you jump into the background. It's exactly the same, actually. So yeah, so I wasn't surprised to see them pull that out on here, but I don't know if I'm sure it's been done before. I think the first time I ever saw it was like in the Fatal Fury series where you can flip back and forth between planes, that sort of thing. But this may predate that. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, it works.
Yeah,
it works fine.
Now the things that are great. Some of my favorite things about this game are not the 3D effects at all. This game features some of the largest, most detailed sprites I've ever seen in a 2D system. Wario looks great. He's huge. The backgrounds are very detailed. Although, they're all set underground, there's stuff going on, there are animated backgrounds, there's some parallax in there. So it looks really cool. Wario's power-ups are hats. And so so whatever kind of hat that you get, it works the same way as a mushroom. If you can get a Viking helmet, and that turns you into Bull Wario. There's a fire-breathing dragon helmet that you can get. And when you get hit, basically you lose your helmet and you become small and you're bald and you look kind of funny. And so
sounds like a play style we've seen somewhere else.
Yeah. Then there's also there's an eagle. If you get an eagle statue, you can become Eagle Wario. And these. The thing that's neat about these is these are cumulative power-ups. So you never have to be afraid like you do in so many shoot-'em-ups where you get one power-up that's awesome and then you accidentally shoot another thing and you get something worse. These are cumulative power-ups, so you keep your powers while they sort of evolve. So that's neat. That's cool. Each stage requires a key that is required to be found to exit. And there's also another collectible, an artifact that you can get. And depending on if you collect all of these artifacts or not depends on the ending that you get in the game. One thing that makes this game cool that's different than so many of the games that we review on this show and on Amigos is that there are different endings. So there's 4 different endings. And
really?
And each one has a different cinematic sequence, and apparently there's one that's quite racy that involves Wario lounging on a carpet with a Playboy bunny. So
I saw one of the endings, and I have to admit it was pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So there's a lot of personality. Wario, he's a very he's got a lot of personality, and I like. I've always been a fan of Wario.
I have to agree with you. I mean, he's not boring.
No,
and he's flawed. He's sort of a bully. And since he's a big kind of tubby jerk, he can just do funny, amusing crap.
Right. He's not like Mario.
And if he gets smacked around, you sort of don't care. It's like, oh, he's a jerk.
Yeah, yeah. Wario's main attack is not like you can jump on enemies, but his main attack is this bull rush where he just lowers the shoulder.
I love that. So, I like that. It's so much easier to use too. You just crush guys.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. If you beat this game, there's actually a second quest. Once you beat the game with all the hidden treasures, then you can go back through the game. The levels are more difficult. There's more spikes. The enemies and bosses are also more aggressive. But it's kind of neat that they put one in here. That was the main complaint of this game, is that it was too short. So I guess they realized that in development and put in that second quest. They put
in a quick cure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I thought that the sound effects were good in this game. You know, it's fine. This is like I said, this reviewed very well. You know, like I said, the main complaint was the length. Every single review, though, they knew the writing was on the wall. They're like, listen, if you somehow ended up with one of these things, you better get this game because there's nothing else good going on this system, which is a shame. But you know, they were being honest. I looked this up on eBay. Oh, before we get to eBay, you have any thoughts on this game?
This game is misplaced on this system in a lot of ways. I mean, like you said, they pulled out. This is exactly what I was talking about with the glass. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, well, really, the 3D-ish, most 3D parts are the boss fights, which are cool. Mm-hmm. And there's some, like there's one where he has to go back and forth across almost like Tron Deadly Discs, you know. Mm-hmm. The bosses are cool. They're huge. You know, they're awesome looking guys. And I thought that was neat. But I mean, you could have put this on any system. Mm-hmm. This could have, and the thing is, part of me thinks this at the time, you got to think this had a RISC processor. They really could pile on all the cool special effects. They could pile on all the parallax. They could pile on anything they wanted to make it look cool. And they did. I mean, it really looks good. But I mean, this could have been on a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color or any of those things. You could have even easily, this could have been on a Nintendo, Super Nintendo. It could have, I mean, it was a perfectly fine game. It just doesn't fit the 3D aspect of the actual Virtual Boy, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That said, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I played this and I was like, man, this really is a lot more fun than Tellero Boxer is, because it's just that you could tell these guys. I mean, what is it with Nintendo? They can always make games like this and make them great. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Nintendo file like yourself and know all the history of this stuff, but I knew when Wario came out, I'm like, I like this guy. Like I said, he's a tubby, evil-looking jerk Mario. They needed that, and that's why he's went on to so much success. He's just an interesting guy. You know, interesting character, and I thought this was a fun game. Is it the best game on the Virtual Boy? I don't know. I haven't played all of them, but I mean, this game was perfectly fine. I mean, I thought it was entertaining, and I enjoyed it. And I like the flourishes with the hats. I mean, the going back and forth into the scenery. It's okay. I mean, like I said, they do the same thing like I think Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and some of these other games. That was sort of something they picked up, and so. I mean, it's not something I'd go crazy over. It's better implemented than those games, but those games are modern. This is an old game. But I dug it. I really dug it. Like I said, I saw one of the endings. It was real funny. I didn't know they had multiple endings, so that's pretty cool. I dug it. I really did.
Cool. Well, I looked this up on eBay. It is very reasonable. You can pick it up loose for around $20, and a box copy, you can have them all day long for around 60 shipped.
Really?
So, yeah. Yeah, Virtual Boy is a pretty, just judging from these two games, it seems to be, a not too bad for collecting.
I should mention, I looked the Virtual Boy itself up on eBay. And if you're interested in picking one of these up, and I am, unfortunately, I can see myself going down the road. So the Virtual Boy, you can get one, and this is in the U.S., you can get one for about $127 with no box. Right. If you want one that's boxed, you're looking up into the, up the 170 range, and that's not too bad if you consider. Now, you're going to see plenty of these out there that are for sale that don't have the stand, for example, and you sort of kind of need the stand. But I mean, you could probably do
I guess
something.
you could lay flat on your back on the sofa and let gravity do its work.
Right. I mean, someone could come up with build a better mousetrap on this thing and come up with a way to, because the stand, I never thought the stand was all that great anyway. But you know, you could get without the stand, you can get these things much cheaper, like $60-$70 where they're not complete.
Right. And
so,
you know, perhaps a market segment waiting to be filled is someone to use a 3D printer to create, you know, replacement stands.
I should have actually priced the stands. I don't know what those would go for, but they're of all the things that are involved in the package that is the Virtual Boy, that's the most rickety thing. Now I know also the Virtual Boys tend to go out. And there are services that you can send your Virtual Boy out to, and they'll fix the lenses or fix the lights. I think the whatever the backlighting, whatever it is, tends to go out. And they tend to flicker. Can you imagine playing a game when that happens?
Oh my
Like
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed it, man.
Cool.
You ready? You know what time it is?
It's time to spin that wheel
And make the deal. So Boat's gonna grab the wheel. But what have you added this week on the wheel?
This year we've added another Nintendo console. We have the Game Boy Advance on the wheel. One of my favorite systems ever.
Okay.
All right, you ready to do this?
Go ahead, Boat. Spin the wheel. Chat room, be ready. There are 3 chat choices on here.
Looks like the BBC Micro.
Okay. BBC. I had it at the top of the list here. Now this is uncharted territory.
Yeah,
this is uncharted. Okay, so I'd say that is mine. Yours is tucked way down there. Here you go, Boat. So I'll go ahead and announce first this week. I picked, again, no idea, the Anarchy Zone.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like a nightmare.
The Anarchy Zone. Hey, hey, it worked great last time.
Yeah. So I actually looked at the games on the BBC Micro before choosing mine, and I chose Chris Folds, one of his favorite games, Chucky Egg.
Chucky Egg. Now that I've at least heard of.
Well, that's why I chose it.
Well, there you go. So next week it'll be Anarchy Zone and Chucky Egg on the BBC Micro.
Sounds good.
Boat. Well, we have a Patreon for this fine program. Well, I think it's fine. If you're interested in throwing us a buck or two, can you throw out the URL?
Absolutely. Patreon.com/Amigos Podcast.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, notice you're wearing a lovely ARG Presents shirt in an earth brown tone.
Yes.
Where would one purchase said item?
If you go over to tpublic.com/stores/Amiga or just go to tpublic.com and search Amiga Tees, all one word, you can find all kinds of apparel for both ARG Presents and our sister show, Amigos.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, so next week it'll be BBC Micro.
We'll do it.
All right, until then,
adios. All right, it's a pretty good show. That went.
I gotta see why someone called me during the show, and I'm sure.
Yeah, make sure I could tell you were getting ready to get up and walk away as the end credits are supposed to be rolling. So I'm glad that you were distracted by your phone. Who called you?
Chad Wilcox.
Oh.
Let me hear this real quick.
Got a great idea for ARG, man.
No, this is probably the bad one.
Oh.
Let's see what this is here. I'm gonna call him real quick. Okay,
that's fine. I'm gonna go.
Pardon me, guys.
Get another drink. I've had all the coffee I can this morning.
Call Chad. Well, he'll be on the show. Well, we're out of the gate anyway.
All right, Pixels.
Stand by.
Pixels, you were correct on your guess, so I will add you to the list. I'm gonna go up and get something to drink.
We'll do Wizard Look. Hey, sorry, we're recording the show when you call. What's going on? Oh yeah.
Where's he stepping outside from?
He's stepping out. Oh man, we're recording our Amigos shows today. In fact, you're going to be on our ARG Presents. I forgot to throw out the ringer, and it rang right. while we were recording. But I saw that you called. What's wrong? Because I'm not surprised you're up this early. No, tell me you're not hurt or in the hospital. Oh, okay. Huh? You went to church? That's weird. Since when did you start going to church? Why did you call me from church? Just to astound me that you're at church? Because it worked. I've got a piano, dude. No, I've had a piano for years. Why, someone's selling a piano? Yeah. Who is it? The church? Oh yeah. No, we've got one. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll ask Boat. He's a music teacher. He might know somebody that might be interested in one. I'll spread the word. Yeah, and I know Brent does not want a piano. I've already talked to him about that. Brent hates everything. Haven't you heard? But actually, Brent was in a pretty good mood yesterday. We had a spirited conversation over at Mom and Dad's for yesterday. Yeah. By the way, last night was an absolute debacle. I came. Teresa, when I got home from taking Luke, Teresa had fell asleep after Luke's ball game about 11:30 in the morning yesterday, and when I got home last night from dropping Luke off, she just woke up. It was like 6:30, and she had just eaten. So I'm like, well, I guess we're not, because I always take her. Remember, I told you I was gonna take her to Chili's for Mother's Day. So she's like, well, she goes, I need to go out and do this. So we went out at 8 o'clock. A little after 8 o'clock, she wanted to go out to Dollar Tree. So we went over there. Then she's like, hey, let's drive out this road as far as it goes. We went out this rickety-ass road for like, I mean, it took me 40 minutes to get to the end of it. It's a dead end. So 40 minutes back. So by this time, it's like 10 o'clock, or 9:30. She's like, well, you know what? I'm hungry again. Let's go ahead and do Chili's. So then I had to drive down to the mall, go to Chili's. So I didn't get home till like 11, almost 11:30. And I was like, oh, I was dead tired. That's when I sent you guys that message. I'm like, I'm just getting home. I'm screwed. I was done. It's Mother's Day, and you did, so I was boned. So I went to. The thing is, we're doing this show right now. I had to be here at 9, so I couldn't stay up 8 million hours. So I was still up till almost 2 in the morning. Get up, come over here and do this. We've still got 2 shows to knock out. We're getting ready to knock those out right now. So yeah, it's dude, it never ends. I've still got to go home and mow the lawn. I've got to go to Teresa's mom's for Mother's Day stuff. I got to stop at Mom's house. Oh God, I don't know how I'm going to get it all in. I don't know how I'm going to do it, man. Hey, listen. Oh, that's true. Listen, I'm going to try to get Float Tuesday off under the table. All right. I've decided. I really do need to go and get my shit done at the DMV. I just got to make sure I got all the documents I need, because you know how anal retentive they are about that shit. So I may call you to compare documents to make sure I've got everything. But where's the DMV at down there? Because what I might do is just meet you at your house, and we'll go over together. Okay, great. That sounds like a plan then. Yeah. I know you're. Yeah. Okay, man. Go on in. I'll talk to you later on about it. Have fun at church. All right. Bye bye. It's a double shocker.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know anyone that's looking for a piano?
What kind of piano is it?
Don't know, but the price is right. His friend is. I can get information if anybody cares. How about that? I can turn the ringer on.
Well, if it's free, I may be interested in it.
There you go. I may just got your free piano,
but I just. Do you know if it's like like the one that you got?
I don't know anything about it, and he's in church. But okay. I'll get hold of him later and let you know. Okay. What kind of piano would you like to have?
The one
ideally.
One that's on the smaller side.
Hey, you should get one exactly like mine, because it was also free.
Right. That's the best kind of piano.
I need a tune. We're gonna start. I think in the fall we're gonna start sticking a little stinker in for lessons. So this is Wiz and Liz, which could do a standard show.
Okay, that sound okay to you?
Sounds great.
I would
man.
try to be more competent in this show than I was in the last one.
Man, I thought I would enjoy just drinking straight tonic water. I'm not enjoying it.
Why would you do that?
Well, they didn't have any.
It's that diet tonic water. Remember you had to broke that out before. It was horrible.
They didn't have. They didn't have like my normal like sparkling water.
Was
So
that
I
on was that the marathon that you had to diet? Where was it you had the diet tonic water? Because I remember
It probably was the.
we did a bit on that. It's like, what is this diet water? I have to laugh.
It's nasty.
Yeah, I bet.
The chat was amused at your cursing on the phone with Chad.
What did I say?
I don't know, but Paul says no longer a family-friendly stream, so he
Oh.
must have said something.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what I did.
Make sure you speak directly into the microphone like that.
Boat is scum. Don't hassle me, Boat. I've had a hard time here. And then I'm going to put up with your antics. Just drink your diet tonic water.
Would you like some?
God, no.
It contains quinine. It always
Contains what?
It always disturbs me when they say stuff like that right there in the label, like they're legally obligated to tell you this is going to kill you.
Contains quinine.
Quinine prevents malaria.
Did you guys eavesdrop on my phone conversation? I am appalled. Probably shouldn't talk on the phone directly beside the live mic. Now, that was my buddy calling me from church. You know, he's never gone to church, and I mean, it's been decades since he went to church. Maybe he's turning into a, you know, it's Mother's Day this weekend, and his mom passed away a couple years ago, so he's probably kind of bummed out. So that's not.
I got no problems with people that go to church.
Church it up, brother. Okay. Yes, I am pulling a sickie, Double B. But listen, don't judge me because, well, you can judge me. But listen, my car, in America, we got these things called inspection
Cars.
stickers.
You don't have them where you live.
And these inspection stickers have to be renewed every so often. And mine's been out for a while. We've also got these other stickers that have to be renewed so often, and that's been out for a while. So we've got double dead sticker action on the car.
That's not good. You're asking for a ticket.
That's right. And I go by 4 million cops every day on this construction.
Yep.
So I need to take a day off and go down to DMV and get this crap done, right? So what I think I'm going to do is go down and I'm going to call in for a day. I'm going to take the day off. I'm not going to make a full sickie. I'm just going to go down to Chad's, go with him to DMV since I can hang out with him, and then also afterwards maybe get a bite to eat or do something like that, just to hang out with him a little bit. And
That
then
sounds
come
pretty
home. So
good.
that's what I'm going to do.
Sounds like a good day.
Yeah. So well, DMV part don't sound too good. But
Yeah.
yeah. They really take us to school in the cars, don't they, Boat?
The inspection isn't too bad. It's only like $12, but the registration sticker, that one.
And they don't
that
even
one's
inspect
more.
your car. Nothing happens. That's what, you know what I'm saying? Am I wrong here?
They look over it and they say, the only time I've ever been, they were like, I had like some really bad tires one time. They were like, you're going to need to change these before the next inspection, which is next year. So.
Yeah. Well, this is I'm gonna disclose this here on the street. This is a scoop. I have bought a hot inspection sticker before.
Really?
I went out. I think it was Campbell's Creek in Charleston. I mean, way out in the you're going over 2 or 3 creeks. You're not creeks anymore. They're creeks.
Right.
And because I knew my car wouldn't pass inspection due to some of its issues, but I needed this car, and so my boss set me up with this guy who would sell me an inspection sticker. It was expensive too, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure, because it's hot.
And I had to go to his house and pick it up, and it was like, and I put it on myself.
Wow.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. Don't do that, folks. That's not right.
In Maryland, you don't have they don't do car inspections.
They want you to be killed in your car.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying, in this, they take you to school with these inspections.
They do.
Everything's super expensive. All right, let me get my news up here. My God, we got a lot of.
So I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something different. I'm no longer going to put the news up on the screen, because I'm going to actually listen to the words that you say and try and comment intelligently on them and saying, yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Well, they are. Everything I'm going to talk about is on.
So we'll just say, if you're interested, check it out on Google+.
Why's my phone not working? Let me turn some of this.
The MOT, is that the Ministry of Travel? I love it in England how everything's a ministry. It's a ministry of awesome. We don't have that. We just have departments. It's a much less cool word.
God, there's a ton of news this week. I mean, a ton. I gotta see where I left off last time. We talked about Duncan's Jaguar thing last time, didn't we? We talked about the Amiga 1000. Okay, so we're on. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, Ministry of Transport. And they've also got all kinds of royal societies over there, Royal Society of this and that. We don't have any of that stuff. Of course, we don't really have royals, so I guess that's why.
And our society's sketchy at
That's
best.
true.
So, let me look this over here. I'm ready whenever you are, big man.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to talk about Wiz and Liz.
Oh, all right.
Both of them.
You know, Wiz, not the best billing of a game.
He's the Wiz
Yeah.
and he lives.
Man. What is that?
I played that. It's a Broadway musical.
It is?
And it's also a film starring Diana Ross and Michael Jackson.
I have a feeling there will be papers filed on your rendition of that. Man, we're off and running today.
So, Aaron, we got some questions that I'm going to save till the end of the show.
Okay, so this bit's back in full force now.
Yeah, the questions are back.
All right.
And so,
Don't they everyone ask you questions about this stuff?
what do you mean?
Well, is it for both of us or just
It's
for me?
for both of
Oh,
us.
okay, good. Double question ask, I guess.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna save those for the end. But we got no other feedback this week. So
No feedback at all. They just left it out there.
just yeah. So if you wanna just fire up the, what do you call it? The gamble train.
The gamble. The gamble train. That's the train that heads out to Vegas. It's full of old people. You know, what is it with the old people in the casinos? Are
Well,
we going to start going out when we get old?
You got all this extra money, and you don't want to leave it to your kids. That's for sure.
You know, I used
And
to work at a casino.
Did you really?
I did. I worked at the Tri-State Greyhound Park and Casino. up here.
AKA the only casino around.
Well, yeah, for now. But every morning they'd open this thing up, and they'd be elderly folks waiting at the door.
Mm-hmm.
They could not wait to get in there and get fleeced.
Right.
They got fleeced in there.
A lot of them, they wait for the first of the month for their Social Security check.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a sad.
My boss's mom spent over $1 million at that track. Lost it.
Yeah.
He's not happy about that. My
What
old
did
boss.
you do? Did you muck out the stalls?
No. What do you mean? Jeez, man. I worked at the print shop. I was in charge of printing stuff from the mutual section, usually racing forms. And sometimes menus and stuff like that, or like special event flyers.
Do they have? Because I've never been to the Greyhound racing part of it. Did they print out sort of like a prospectus, like you do at a horse race, where they say, these are the names of the dogs that are running, and here's a little story about them, why they're good, or something like that?
There's no story. This isn't like role playing, man. This is straight up numbers, yo. We would print up mutuals for all over we print up racing forms for all over the world.
And they're called mutuals?
Well, the mutuals is the department that handled all the money. But these were forms, like, for example, we would do a Talladega might have a track. Of course, that's a racetrack. We didn't do them. But they have, like, another one I remember, Australian Downs, I think that's what it's called. We did a track that would simulcast from Australia. We did tracks from all over the country.
So do they have...
Scioto Downs and Wheeling Park and all that. We did dogs and horses.
Do they have, inside the area where the dog track is, do they have screens that are showing these other races
Absolutely.
simultaneously?
Simultaneous tracks. One thing on the TV in there, you could watch all the races. And let me tell you something, they would run, well, we're really going off on a tangent here, but they would run these horses in the snow.
Really?
They'd run them in the rain. There was nothing stopping these races from getting completed. The only time that a race was canceled almost is when kennel cough or something would come down. It would take out a bunch of the dogs and something like that. But yeah, so how do we get on this subject? Can't even remember.
The gamble train.
The gamble train. Let me whip out the gamble train. I'll be the engineer. All right.
I'm the caboose.
So,
oh yeah.
There's some interesting news here. I'm going to go over the news, and then we'll go over what's come up on the site. We had a lot of sweet action this week. So we covered this many moons ago, but it's now officially been put to bed. The fully finished version of the Amiga version of Bomb Jack Beer Edition has been laid out. It looks good. I'm gonna, now that it's final, I'm gonna have a look at this game. Now, I think we talked this before. You're a bomb jack guy, weren't you?
I like it. It fits right in with those games like Mr. Do and Dig Dug. I love all those sort of genre.
I haven't played a ton of bomb jack, but I will say I looked at some videos of this and it looks good.
Yeah.
So that's something on the list. This is sort of timely, and so this will be, by the time this comes out, I would say this will still be going, but it'll be close. And that is the Commodore The Final Years Kickstarter for the book. It's already been funded by a large margin, but if you want to get some of that action, you can get on here on the Kickstarter. The book, Commodore The Final Years book, that's probably going to be the most interesting one, wouldn't you say? That's when it went down.
I'm always interested. The most fascinating part of any company for me is watching it slow demise.
Oh, jeez, man, that's that's depressing. Good grief, dude. I've been watching there's a fellow on YouTube that's put together this Atari ST versus Amiga video.
I watched that.
So
somebody dropped that in the Discord.
This is the second one. Did you watch the second one?
No, I've only seen the first one.
Which was the best gaming machine.
Yeah, I wanna.
Yeah, well, I think we know the clear winner in that. One thing about the Atari ST, not having one and not ever really using one, but I'm going to make this comment from what I've read and what I've seen in other documentaries. It seems like that really people had trouble tapping into the full potential of that machine, which the Amiga had a similar situation. But I mean, the Atari was a pretty powerful little device, and I don't think it ever really got its true worth. Yeah. For whatever reason, I guess it just became a port machine. I guess whichever one became more popular was going to be the one that got its stuff ported to the other one. So there you go. We should mention. Oh, here's this. I couldn't wait to talk about this, but. This I just found last night, and I had to laugh. I cackled when I read it. There's a way that you can take your SNES Classic, of which you believe have one.
I do. It's literally sitting. Oh, it's upstairs.
And you can add Amiga games to it.
Really?
You can do it. This is I posted this video up, and it's not the easiest thing, but you can do it. Apparently they've got apparently they've found a way to kind of get RetroArch to a certain degree on that, and maybe you're more up to spec on that than I am. I was surprised to hear that, but sure enough, this guy adds Shadow the Beast and a couple other games to his SNES Classic, and is playing them. Huh. So there you go.
I wonder, because I love the SNES Classic. The controller on there is second to none. Thanks again to Christopher Hassel for donating that to the show. But I do miss the ability to have some of the other retro systems on there beside the SNES and the NES. So the more that they can add to that, the better.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I mean, it just struck me as odd. That you could do that, but I mean it's kind of neat, man. I have to say,
if you can do it on the Xbox, you can do it anywhere.
Well, you're right. Really, I don't know. I wonder which one's more powerful. I'm guessing the Xbox still has more power than the Super Nintendo Mini does.
Maybe so,
but I don't know.
Probably so.
So this popped on Indie Retro News, and I think Folds is the fellow that shared it on Google+. There's a new game it's been in development for a long time, and by that I mean a guy worked on it, gave up for years, and then came back and finished it. I'm going to try to pronounce this. A Corralado.
That's an Eagles song.
Is that
Corralado?
No. Man, you're
what?
Woo! No more. So it's a new game. I've not looked at this game, but I will say what struck me as odd is the fact that it's got like a oversized. It's some kind of platformer with oversized digital heads.
Those are huge sprites on those.
Yeah, and if you look, it looks like Rambo or something is one of the heads. I mean, look at. It's a Rambo head, and I guess it's some kind of shooting game. We're gonna have to check this out, but this just popped up. You can again Folds for sharing that with us.
So one thing that we don't mention if you're listening to this in audio form is that all of the stories that we're talking about are pulled off our Google Plus page. So if you're not a member of our Google Plus page, that's where all the show notes are kept for the news. So get on there and check it out.
One thing we should probably address, I'm not sure we ever have. Why do we do so much stuff on the Google Plus page?
Because that was the only social network you were comfortable with.
That's not true. What? No. That's incorrect. Google Plus, I can access from work, and it makes it easier to transfer stuff over. So I started transferring it over there, And that's the reason. It's not, Roy, I never use it except for Amiga stuff. That's the only reason I use it for. But yeah, so it's an easy thing to get on. It's a good platform.
It is. It's very good.
In this era when Facebook has, gotten into some
screws,
trouble,
yeah.
gotten a little bit of trouble for the privacy, you can trust good old Daddy Google.
Of course.
They'll never screw you. Come on down.
That's right.
We need what's the safest social network? God only knows what it would be.
Probably picking up the phone.
We just call all the listeners and let them know. Now, this is a strange one here. And this one I want to discuss with you. Our talkative chum, Daniel Cordell,
Yes.
shared this with me. I'm just going to read this verbatim, and then we can make it, because maybe you can make heads or tails over to the chat, or can I don't know. He says, we are now the #1 Amiga-only podcast out there worldwide. Congratulations, John and Aaron, on winning such an amazing honor. It says, and it continues. In fact, to my surprise, ARG Presents is the last place on there too. You topped it twice, and ARG hasn't even got Amiga on it.
Did you click the link to
I
see what he
did.
was talking
I did
about?
click the link, and it was a link to something called player.fm
Player.fm.
podcast Amigas.
Yeah.
And there we are. Now, I don't know what this means.
So this means we're the most popular Amiga podcast worldwide.
That's what it means.
That's what it means.
That's all it matters.
There is no doubt about the accuracy and the veracity of that claim.
I don't know. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Academy. And I'm looking down the list here, and I see some of our some podcasts that I know, and there's a lot here I don't know. We beat Bears de Buenos Aires.
We also beat Beyond the Bike with Big Lou.
And Big
which
Lou.
almost certainly is not an Amiga podcast, but it's classified as
Chisme
one.
and Chill. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm guessing that I don't know what to say about this, but I thought I'd mention it because it was so wacky.
Well, it is a great honor.
It is. To be the finest West Virginia-based Amiga show fills me with a certain delight.
It does.
Although now that we know there's a bunch of other Amigans around here, that they could get frosty and try to take our crown.
That's true.
And the crown's sit there waiting to be taken.
If there's one thing I fear, it's people getting frosty.
Are you mocking me, boat,
No,
again? You're pulling another boat. So by the way, I want to also mention, we're going to get to the site updates here. We did a Disc 2 last week on Boat's waffling on his VR setup.
Just a quick update to that. I'm back in on VR. I'm not selling it.
Beautiful. And so I called it boating it up. That's the term when Boat does this. And he found the greatest picture to represent the page of this car towing this, or mounting this huge boat on top of it. I love the picture.
Thank you.
I want to mention that to you. So let's go over what happened on the site this week. Man, good God Almighty, we got a lot of stuff. So we're going over Wiz and Liz today, and so Brutal Barracuda chimed in with his review of Wiz and Liz in his own tremendous style, as usual.
Man, Brutal needs to start doing these more often. I loved his style. Between him and Dreamcatcher,
Duncan just put that one. There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's never been a better time to be subscribed to the Amigos Retro Gaming YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's true. It's unbelievable, and of course Huck always puts. There's always crazy stuff going on. The stuff that dwarves our pathetic entries in the field. So let's talk about, speaking of the Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatcher was a busy man this week. Dreamcatcher has an article up here on games revolving around toothbrushing and Colgate, and did you read this article? This was the craziest thing. I remember seeing these back in the day, these various games, and did you not? This is pretty
I've not
recent.
seen this. That's hilarious.
And so it's by the way, he also mentions Hugo in here. Now this, I wish I could show this to people. I don't think you can see it here.
The 1 week where I say I'm not going to put that stuff up on the screen.
This is that game I was talking about, that Hugo game, and leave it to him to bring this thing up. That's the game I've played. Remember I asked about if that was a cartoon character or something? That's what I'm talking about. So this was wacky. A little article. It's good stuff. I read it last night as I drifted off to sleep. This is the last thing I read for real. He also, Dreamcatcher also posted the script to his Kid Chaos video,
which was excellent,
which was great. Yeah. So another Brutal Barracuda offering. And he's done all these, and they've all. I mean, it's funny to go back and look at how many mailbag episodes we have. But this is another mailbag episode that Brutal Barracuda has put up for us. I believe this is the one where we get that awesome case.
Oh,
I think it was
yes.
Tapes from the Crypt that were just, I love it, love it, love it, love it. We mentioned that the Insert Disc 2, I don't know how much we build Insert Disc 2, but if you just want to hear me, but it's basically our old pre-show, except we just give it away and we just talk about various stuff. So if you want to just hear us ramble about crazy stuff or fight or Boat yell at me a lot, it's sort of like, every other time. So Insert Disc 2. Good, we enjoy doing
If you're
that, don't we?
subscribed to the podcast, you get it automatically,
Yeah.
whether you want it or not.
Yeah, we're forcing it down. We demand you listen to our various views on stupid things. We've done cartoons and we've done a lot of different stuff on there. So this one, I don't know if you read this, another Dreamcatcher article, and this is a game. I don't know where he finds this stuff. I swear to God, I've never heard of it. This is a video on a game called Baby Joe, and it's a baby platformer.
Okay.
You're a baby.
That's been done, right? Has it?
I thought you had something there. What do you got?
Super Mario Land 2, Yoshi's Island, or Super Mario World 2. You got the Baby Marios.
Baby Mario is not. This is a proper baby.
This is a real baby.
Like a diaper and everything. Yeah. So
What's that Roger Rabbit character where it's the baby?
with the cigar?
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah. Seems like there should have been a game starring him.
Yeah, maybe there was. I don't know. Let's see if we got anything else here. I know I'm missing some stuff here. My news is all jacked up. I think that. Did you put anything up this week, Boatster? Oh, you did. Yes, Boat. If you want to watch Boat struggle to, and boy, I'm not going to make fun of you, by the way, to play the Settlers with a little help from his friends, and he doesn't. And apparently, a lot of people watched that for tips because it actually was pretty popular. I was kind of surprised.
Well, I was very thankful to the folks in the chat that were helping me out because I couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah, that's a complex game to say the least. We should also mention our sister show, ARG Presents. This week we were out with a couple winners, I think, on the SG 1000. We did Hero and Girls Garden, and I can safely say that Girls Garden is awesome.
Yes.
We love that game.
Fantastic.
And the SG 1000, you kind of delved into the SG this week, didn't you?
Yeah, I played a lot of stuff. It's another one of those systems that emulates very well, especially on the Xbox. And so it's a great little system.
It's not an easy system to get,
No.
I might away.
Unless you live in New Zealand or Japan.
Yeah, you're not going to get that thing on the cheap. It's an expensive one. So that's pretty much sums it up. It was a pretty busy week, a lot going on, which is always good, especially for the summer. Usually things really die off. And the everythingamiga.com. Check us out. There's always great stuff on there. Please check out our YouTube channel. And we have just topped the 910, 911 subscribers, which is awesome. So if you listen to the show and have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, boy, we'd be appreciative if you'd go over and give us a subscribe. We're trying to have a moral victory and get to the 1,000
1,000 mark. Yeah.
Did you ever think we would get that many, even 900 plus subscribers?
No, you said we had 910. I was hoping we'd have 10 at one point. So.
It's we've been on YouTube now for what, about
we're coming up on the 3rd anniversry of Amigos.
And I look back on our history on there. And it really was. I mean, it was just carving it out of nothing. We started out with. No one ever went there because we were a podcast.
Right.
So it's amazing to me that we've gotten that many people to get on board. And of course, listen, the contributors to that really are the guys that steal the show. The Amigos contributors, the Amigos family. It's like the Batman family. You've got a million various people in there. And they all contribute great stuff. They really do. So before we close out the news, I think you would like to talk about the. Do you want to go into the date and time on our Amigathon?
This is let it be known. This is the official first announcement of Amigathon 2018.
Boom.
So if you recall last year at the inaugural Amigathon. We raised money for Make-A-Wish UK. This year we're going to be raising funds for the Children's Miracle Network of hospitals benefiting sick kids. Yep. And I will have more information on the website and stuff next week. I'm still getting that set up, but I wanted to let everybody know the date and the time of Amigathon. This year's Amigathon will be held on Saturday, July 7th, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. So it's going to be an early start for us, but we want to make sure that give all of our European listeners as much time as possible, especially as we progress later on to the night. And there's not going to be an end time. It's going to be, you know, as long as money keeps coming in, it's going to be the same rules as last year. For every dollar you donate, or whatever your local currency turns into, we will play 1 minute of your favorite Amiga game or your least favorite Amiga game. We're perfectly willing to play hours and hours of Top Banana if you want to throw in some dough. Oh. So maybe Aaron's not.
I'm backing out.
But
oh man!
But I will have more information on that shortly. I'm going to finish up the Extra Life page today and blast that out across the social network. So you can start your donations as soon as that page is done, and we'll start filling out the schedule. Slots will fill up fast, so make sure you donate. And like I said, 100% of the money will go to the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. So.
I enjoyed almost all of last year's Amigathon. There were only 2 low points I can think of.
What were they?
Shadow of the Beast. That was brutal because it hit me. That's when it all caught up to me when we were sitting there trying to play that and we couldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the very end of it, which I didn't like that much as well.
And there will be stretch goals. There will be an opportunity to vote for whether Aaron or me receive a pie in the face.
What? I thought we were going to do the pie.
Oh, you know, I asked on the Discord if the pie needed to come back, and the Discord was unanimous and that the pie should come back. But however, if you want, you know, there's going to be an option. Either me or Aaron gets hit with the pie. I think we're going to bring Chad back to do the pie. Unless, of course, I'm the one that gets hit with the pie.
I'm going to need an Amigathon for my medical bills. I'm still pulling pie out of the back of my nasal cavity from last year. Good God.
It's always a lot of fun. We're going to have a rotating cast of guest characters coming on.
Guest characters, wacky. We get some people on. We'll probably get Chad come over, and Brent will stop by.
Both Chads.
Yeah. Maybe we
hopefully
get John
John.
up here. Yeah.
So it'll be a good time right here in Amigo Studios in the heart of the summer, the heart of the sunrise.
Yes.
And so anyway, Amigathon 2017 coming, or 2018
be
coming
there.
soon. Be there.
Be there.
Aaron.
Yes.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time to talk Wiz and Liz.
All right. I'm ready here, Boat. Now I have to say before we get going here, had you heard or played Wiz and Liz before this? Before they got picked for us?
No. Yes, I played both of these games very briefly.
I see. And who was the person requesting this particular game?
The person that requested this particular game was Pixels at Dawn.
Pixels at Dawn. So again, Wiz and Liz. This came out in '93, Boat. So it was, right in there. 2 discs. And it was published by Psygnosis. Well, we love Psygnosis.
Psygnosis, known for their very difficult games, which makes this game so surprising.
Yeah, and this was developed by an outfit called Lunatic for the Amiga, which we'll get into that in a moment. And they were responsible for 2 games. And one game, the name I thought was interesting. They did a game called Cytron, and they did another game called Necronom.
Oh,
yeah.
Necronom, right here in the chat with us.
So I don't know. I'm assuming is that where you got your name, Necronom? We'll let him digest that.
Isn't that the book too? Isn't
the Necronomicon?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's the Book of the Dead, but that's a whole other game. So again, you can play 2 players, up to 2 players, and 2 players simultaneous. Which I bet I didn't get to play 2 players this, but I bet it'd be pretty fun. The artist on this was a fellow named James Thomas, and he was also did Necronom. This was coded by a fellow named Martin Hall, who also did Necronom. So we may have to check out Necronom at some point.
Necronom in the chat right now says that his name, it comes from H.R. We say Geiger. I guess the real pronunciation is Giger's name for the alien. So that freaky alien.
There you go. There you go. So this was out on the original hardware, ECS, OCS. Nothing special, nothing crazy. This was converted over from the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis. Now, have you ever played this on the Genesis? No, I had not either. So the concept of this game is actually it's very cute, isn't it, Boat? So the premise of this is there's a little opening movie that comes up. It shows a bubbling cauldron in the woods and a bunch of bunnies hopping around it. Something bubbles up, and basically the bunnies disappear. And you play either Wiz or Liz, and you're tasked with finding and grabbing as many of these bunnies as you can, if not all the bunnies. And to do this, you have to go into a sort of a roller coastery land with a bunch of doors in it that go to different levels. So the premise right away is wacky. You're after, and by the way, it's not rabbits, it's wabbits. Let me get that right. Like, and you rascally wabbit.
Elmer Fudd style.
Yeah. So, one thing I like with this game straight away, first of all, it's got a lot of character just in a little movie, which was very cute. You're a wizard, you know, or an enchantress or whatever if you're Liz, and so what do? You do wizard stuff, right? So before the game even starts, you've got this big. The screen has a house with a big bold bubbling cauldron that's as big as the house. And so what do? Well, heck, to do anything, you got to whip up a spell. So you go and harvest a couple spell components. You put them in the and this is a sort of a teaching moment for the game. You put your spell components into the cauldron. They bubble up, and then for the very first screen, it ends up opening up a door that lets you go to where you need to go to the different levels. So right away, it's taught you that you can use this cauldron to bubble up spells, which is cool. So then what do? Well, you go to this level, and there's a bunch of different doors, and they're labeled. There'll be snow, and there'll be sand, and there's one called like temple, and there's one called dead.
You know what it reminded me of? There's another game that uses the same sort of world selection system, and that's the Kirby games. The old Game Boy and NES Kirby games. You select a world by just going, opening a door in the world selection zone.
Right. So I guess Wiz and Liz are the only two people that live on their planet, which is hilariously named Pum. Pum the planet. Yeah. So you've lost your bunnies. You've got to go get them. You've got to go to these different worlds. So this game is very strange. Let's go over why. Number one, there are no enemies. I mean, except for end bosses, there are no enemies. Every level, you cannot die. All right. Which is that in itself is real unusual. You also really don't have weapons or any sort of offensive. You don't need them. All right. All you're tasked to do is get these wabbits, and to get the things the wabbits tend to drop. Okay. So when you go to a level, let's just, for example, the first level I went to was grasslands, and there's just a simple background. It's usually several different like hilly platforms, and you see a bunch of wabbits. The first thing you got to do is go and get some wabbits enough to and when you get a wabbit, they will drop a letter at first, and then at the top of the screen you'll see a word like verboom, for example, just a mystery word. When you get enough letters to spell it, that's when you can actually start gathering a number of wabbits you need to finish the level. So if it says vaboom, you spell it, then it'll say 20 wabbits. And there's a door there, but the door is blocked. You can't go at it until you get 20 wabbits. It's simple. It's not hard to understand. You go through and grab all. See how it got me doing it. Grab all the wabbits, and then once you've got the number you need, you can leave. And there's a timer. Your enemy in this game is time. If you don't grab I did it again. If you don't grab the number of wabbits you need in time to open that door, then that is how you will lose a life. Right. It's that simple. And it sounds like you're thinking to yourself, this seems like a lame, easy game that is not that much fun. I had to say it. For a concept that's so simple, it actually is quite a bit of fun. The wabbits will appear. More wabbits will appear as the level goes on, especially when you need a lot of them. And so they're running amok everywhere. And the time situation makes it a very frantic game, especially when you get to the later levels and you have to collect a bunch of wabbits. And occasionally you'll come to a level where you have to get all the wabbits. There isn't that you can't leave some. You got to get every single wabbit, which that can get real nasty. So once you have, oh, and I should mention that aside from shooting letters up out of the wabbits, also occasionally fruit will come up out of the wabbits, and a few other things. And the stuff when you catch a wabbit, the item will start floating upwards.
Kind of like Bubble Bobble.
Right, and they float really slow. So you could actually sort of like, what I would do is like go at a lower level, clear a bunch of bunnies, and then move up to the next level, clear a bunch of bunnies there, and by that time, hopefully all the crap that you didn't pick up before will have floated up to the next level and you can grab it then.
Right.
There's also places you can jump up in the air and jump and get stuff that's really high. Some stuff just floats away. You don't get it. There's no penalty for not getting stuff once you've spelled the letter, but it's points you lose. And once you've gotten the number of wabbits required to leave the level, you go through the door, and it has a summary screen that tells you how many certain types of rabbits you got, how much certain types of fruit you got. It adds up all your points, and then it adds them to your score. It's pretty simple. When you finish that level, it puts you back to your home screen. This is where the game gets a little more interesting, because on your home screen, you're back to where your pot's at, and whatever fruit you picked up in the last level will be there, and you can mix up some new spells. Now, I started on training. I don't know if did you play training? I went with training. On the training levels, there is no store. All right, so whatever fruit you got in your little area, you could pick it up, put it in the pot, and then you get a spell. And there's some just pretty generic spells. Like sometimes the spell will be like you get extra 2,500 points, or bunnies are worth more.
Or there's more time added.
There's
to
more
the
time, right? On training level, they were all pretty simple. When you go up to the next level, it gets more interesting because there's a store, and so you can go to the store and you can buy and sell various spell components and get the spell components you want to put in the pot. And after you do it for a while, you can start to sort of write. I can see where someone would take notes.
That's exactly right.
And write down all the different, because I mean, there's a bunch, and some spell components don't work. They don't do anything. Some do some crazy stuff. Now, I did not write them down. I just kind of wanted to.
I never had any situation where it didn't do anything.
I did. Yeah, I had somewhere that didn't do anything. And I don't know about you, but I was going to the store just brain away, buy a bunch of crazy stuff. Pickle and banana, for example, or potato and whatever. Sometimes you'd get like a diamond. Sometimes it was just a payout. One time I got this thing where it spun like the wheel of stuff. Did you ever get that one? It took me to this screen where it was just a ring of items. And the ring spun around, sort of like the ARG wheel, and whatever item ended up with, you get that item. So that was pretty cool. There are some spells that'll open up like a mini level you can go to. Did you ever have that happen?
No.
Yeah, like it's like a bonus level where you run around and collect fruit or whatever.
Oh,
it was
that's
pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah, the spell component of this, it's like it adds a lot of fun to the game.
Yeah,
it really does.
It takes what at its core is a very simple game, and it adds a huge layer of depth to it.
It also, like I said, you can use those. The spells can give you like extra men. It can give you extra time. It can do a bunch of cool stuff. That was probably my favorite part of the game, was that trying out different spells. I'm sure I could have went somewhere and downloaded a list of every spell, but I kind of wanted to try different stuff.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot of fun. Once the store opened up, I ran through the training levels and completed the game in training, which for me, amazing. I couldn't believe I did it. So this game, in terms of the Amiga games we played, I would say is not the hardest. That much said, when you go up in level, I mean, it absolutely changes the game and makes it much more difficult.
This game does exactly what I wish every Amiga game did. And that's at the easy level, it's actually easy. So if you want to experience what it's like to play the game to its completion, you can do so without too much trouble. Then if you want more challenge, the challenge is there for you. Every Amiga game, every video game should be like
that. I mean, it was so refreshing to start this game out, watch the opening video, do the training, figure out what I was doing, and then move up to the next level and be fairly competent having only played for a little while at the second level and then moving up, the various levels you go to are the graphics are nothing to write home about. I mean, your Wiz and Liz are pretty small characters. The stuff's pretty small, but it's not painfully small.
No. And for the smallness of the sprites is outweighed by the speed at which the game runs. The game runs very smooth and very fast.
Right.
You never get any slowdown. The characters are animated well for their size. I wish that there were more variations on the Wabbits. It would have been cool if they would have put different animals in for different stages. But overall, the game I thought looks very good for what it's trying to do.
Yeah, it had they had some jaunty tunes that played in the background.
I like the music.
They were totally fine. The fellow that did the music has done a few other things. It really had two musicians. They had a guy named Mike Clark. You'll remember him from a couple of the games we've already covered.
Him and Buck Owens.
Yeah, no, that's Roy Clark. Mike was responsible for the music in Hired Guns and Last Ninja 2, among others, which we've covered. The other musician was a fellow named Rick Eady. He did the music for Brian the Lion, and then another, I love the name of this one, Innocent Until Caught.
Wow.
That sounds great. And he also did Nigel Mansell's music. So these guys had some prior experience and did some other stuff. And the music is good. I thought the music was pretty good. At the end of, not on training, but once you're off training, when you end the first set of worlds, every set of worlds you end, which means you go into every door and clear the bunnies, you will have a boss fight. This is where Aaron ceased his forward momentum. I had trouble with these boss fights. The one I fought was on the first level I was on was a giant snake. Did you ever have any luck on these things?
It's funny. I played a ton of this game. You can see from the stream, and I never got to a boss fight.
But you have to clear every world on a level above the slowest level.
I was doing something wrong.
Yeah. So the boss, and I will say the boss fights in this strike me as odd. And of course, I watch video of people getting further than me. So this is a pretty peaceful game, and then all of a sudden,
are there no boss fights on the easiest mode? Is that
in training there is no boss fight?
Maybe I did do training and I thought that was easy.
Yeah,
okay.
Because at the end of that one, you just like you win.
Right.
And you're like, hey, yeah. No, it's not like that in the other one. So you've got the first guy you fight. It was this giant cobra, and I mean it's jarring. You're like, I'm Wiz. Yeah, everything's hot. Holy God! It's this massive cobra, and he just beat the tar out of me and killed me. And then game in, Amongst the other bosses, there is a giant pumpkin, which I saw, and there's also a giant clock.
Okay.
The fights are the only point in the game where you actually fight anything, and basically you can shoot a beam of magic at the boss that does damage to it, and you just have to avoid being hit. I did not perform well, but again, the bosses really kind of blew my mind a little bit. I think I would have come up with something else, to be honest with you. I mean, boss fight's fine, but it's weird. Just like the Cobra really seemed out of place in this game. It didn't. That was kind of weird to me. But I mean, overall, it's a simple game. It does have there's a competitive 2-player mode, so which I didn't get to try the 2-player on this, but I'm sure the 2-player is pretty good. I watched it being played, and it looked like it was pretty fun. I like the idea that it's got simultaneous 2-player.
Oh yeah,
not something you see all that often on a game like this. It seemed like it would work pretty well. I guess my biggest takeaway from this is, I mean, it's a simple game. It's easy to play, and for the most part, you could probably let your kid play it, and he could pick it up pretty quick. I'm going to actually show my kid this one when he gets back from Granny's, because it's a game where there's no violence, there's no shooting. And you're rescuing bunnies. So, what can be nicer than that, Bo? So, what did you think of this thing overall? I mean, where do you place it?
This is Amigos episode 145.
Oh, yeah?
I think. And the amount of games that we play on this show that I would actually go back and play again, I can probably number on one hand.
Oh, one hand.
And this is one of those games. I love arcade action. I love simplicity, and I love easy. And, even at its higher levels, Wiz and Liz is a game that you can make some progress in. I like the tunes. I thought they were cool. I like the characters. I like the speed. This game was great. I was very surprised. I didn't remember liking it as much when I played it originally back on an Amigos Plays. I thought that every aspect of this game was well done. That said, you know, I didn't get to any of the bosses, so I can see how that would be a jarring experience, and that might color my my perception of the game a little bit.
I mean, it's definitely not a deal breaker. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it wasn't something that like killed the game for me or anything. One of the things I looked at, again, this was I had a home on the Genesis as well. I had a look at the Genesis version and actually played it a little bit too, and it plays well. The Genesis version actually is probably, I would say, better. Did you play this on Genesis at all? Or
no.
Mega Drive?
I'd be interested to check it out though.
This reminds you. Remember in Adam's Family on the Amiga? For whatever reason, they just left out the background. They did that on this too. In fact, I'll tell you exactly what it reminds me of. It was BC Kid. Remember when BC Kid, the TurboGrafx version had that moon and the stuff in the background? This also has a hideous, ugly to look at moon. I mean, with a face. I mean, it follows you around. It's exactly like BC Kid's moon. And but the stars are nice. The music is real nice. Graphically, it's probably I think overall it's just a better quality of game.
They probably put more effort into it because they knew it was going to sell more than the Amiga version.
They may have. I don't know. But the moon, I'm not sure which one I'd rather play, just because the moon is so ugly and disturbing that it really, again, just exactly like BC Kid.
That's hilarious.
It's not as bad as the moon and BC Kid, but it was a needless addition. Let's just put it that way. But I mean, the Genesis one was pretty well received.
And you got to think too that, you know, whenever they were doing a console port, they knew that they had to up their game. I mean, what's this game going up against? That's
I think this was actually ported from the Genesis to the.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it went the other way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so kind of wacky.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. That's the way it was reported. That this came over from the Genesis. So maybe just thought, well, we'll just knock this out. Maybe it was easier. I don't know what the story was.
Interesting.
So, review-wise, this reviewed pretty well. Amiga format gave it a 7. Amiga Power gave it a 78. AUI gave it an 83. And CU Amiga gave it a 79. So it's somewhere in that B to C range.
Which I think is a little bit
low.
The
one gave it an 86. Well, it is a very simple game. I mean, in its core, it's manic. You know what it sort of reminded me of is it's one of those. I was thinking when I played this, since it's all left and right action, you know, and jumping, you could have almost used a trackball to play this game.
Interesting.
And I thought to myself, for the amount of bunnies, it sort of reminds. This is a weird comparison, but it reminded me a little bit of like a Crystal Castles in a way. You're just going around and gathering stuff, and and since you'd only need to be going left and right with a jump, you really could use a trackball and it'd be manic. You could really go nuts with it.
That's interesting.
I mean, I could be off my nut here, but I'm just saying. But I like the manic gameplay. The timer, like there are sections, like one of the drops you could get from one of the Wabbits is like a thing that like gives you a bunch of time and the screen flashes. And I remember getting that a couple times at the last second.
Oh yeah, it's
when
very
I beat
exciting.
the training level, I literally went into the door with no time left, and I was like fist pumping.
Right.
Yeah. Why didn't I record this?
Yeah.
You know, I was so excited. But I mean, the training level, you can beat it your first time out, but that's what a training level should be.
Right.
There are 2 different difficulty settings, and I don't know exactly how they mesh, but there's a level select, and there's also another like
it's
a
like
skill.
taxing or yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting. You can see we're looking at the video now. That's the snake you're fighting. I mean, that's weird compared to. I mean, it looks cool. But
I can see how that would have caused because I mean it looks sort of generic too. Like that could have come out of any video game.
Yeah, and the boss fights still have a great rep. Yeah. Apparently, they're pretty simple for people that aren't me.
Yeah, but so I can see how that would have perhaps negatively affected its review score.
But so I mean, I think looking at these scores, the low being 77. The high being 86. So I'll take a B level game. Yeah, you know, I can see it. That's about right. Lemon, the people at Lemon give it a score of 7.95. So just about in that same area. You know, B, C level. But I mean, it's fun, and again, it's a good game that you can play with let your kids and play it, or you can play with them. There's that aspect to it as well. On eBay, I looked around. I actually found the discs for sale in the U.S. Just the discs, $20. In the UK, again, they're plentiful.
Right.
But you're going to be paying anywhere in the box from between 33 and 66 bucks.
Was this on multiple discs, or was this one?
Two discs.
Two discs. Okay.
Germany, I saw a couple going between 22 and 57 bucks, and Australia, I saw one that had sold for 14 bucks. So you can get them; they're out there, but they're not super cheap. You're going to be paying a few dollars. But overall, one thing I wanted to mention. It's a shout out to our good buddy Old Chad. The designer of this game was named Martin R. Chudley.
Oh.
So there's a guy named Chudley walking around, which is his nickname. Also did Killing Game Show, which is something we'll have to cover sometime. Another Psygnosis game. But overall, fun game, lighthearted romp, which I desperately needed.
Yeah. Well, we thank Pixels at Dawn, Amigos Game Selection Committee member.
Good choice.
For choosing this game. And we'd also like to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters. We're running a little bit long on time in this episode, so we're going to save these questions for next week, where I think we'll have some more free time at the end of the podcast. But I would like to thank everybody that helps make this show happen. If you'd like to support Amigos, you can go over to patreon.com/AmigosPodcast, and you can add yourself to this illustrious list. Now, Aaron, the challenge has been thrown down by one of our listeners. I believe it was Daniel Cordell, who watched the episode where I gave you the first name and you supplied me with the last name. And he said, "Well, I bet Boat can't do it." So the challenge has been met. So you're going to read me the first name.
I get to be the quiz master.
Yeah,
there,
and
okay.
I'll tell you the last name.
Okay, are you ready,
I'm
Boat?
ready. And you don't have to be in order, whatever you want.
Okay. I've got to do them in order because I'll never. Are you kidding me?
That's true.
So I'm going to read you the first name.
Yep.
Okay. Dan.
Ross.
Okay. Leaf.
Killand.
Alan.
Kebab.
Donald.
Tyler.
Level.
Lord.
John.
Marshall.
Matthew.
Perron.
Ricky.
DeRocher.
Creepy.
Dead Boy.
Figgy.
CTZ.
The.
Slow Norris.
Stefan.
Mortensen. Sigurd Mortensen.
Yep. Edmund.
Helland.
Blindo.
75.
And you're killing this, Boat. I'm going to give you credit. Christopher.
Hassel.
Ravi.
Abbott.
Chris.
Foltz.
Dream.
Ketcha.
Laurent.
Giroux.
Graham.
Webke.
Brent.
Dowdy.
Lane.
Lane Denson.
Adam.
Battersby.
I thought I had you.
Or Bradley. Brian's Retro and Vintage.
Gary.
Hucker.
C.
Brian Jones.
Are you cheating somehow?
I'm looking at this picture of Charlie Brown.
I can't believe it. Paul.
Harrington.
Duncan.
Styles.
Anthony.
Jarvis.
Tapes.
From the Crypt.
You got to use the voice.
From the Crypt.
Josh.
Nan.
Will.
Williams.
Adam.
Battersby.
Try again.
Bradley. There's two.
Jonas.
Rulo.
T.
HT.
Eric.
Nelson.
Kim.
Tommy Humbertstad.
Daniel.
Bingston.
Brutal.
Barracuda.
Darren.
Coles.
Jason.
Warrens.
Pixels.
Pixels at Dawn and Kilbjorn Bardeman.
Man, I got to give you credit on that,
Thank you.
dude.
Thank you. Well, I care about our patrons.
Obviously, you've memorized. Oh, there's a lot of names.
There's a lot of names on there.
Hey, that was straight up. That was no cheat. I can't believe that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Golly, Ned, that's amazing.
I'd also like to announce the
Very
winner
impressed.
of last week's Patreon song contest. So we're taping. That's weird. The printer just kicked on.
The printer wants to play.
The last week we're taping 2 episodes back to back today, so there's no Patreon song contest this week. But last week the winner of the song was the theme from The Adventures of the Gummy Bears.
Which I've never watched.
So of course you haven't. Edvin Helland, Duncan Styles, Pixels at Dawn both guessed the English name, and Figgy CTC and O'Brien's recognized it as its proper Norwegian name, Bumpibjorn.
Bump. That's what they're called over there.
Yeah, Bumpyjorn.
There's always got to be an O with a thing through it.
Oh yeah, that's required by law. So congratulations, Figgy CTZ, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Edvin Helen, Duncan Styles, and Pixels at Dawn
Very
for getting that
impressive.
correctly.
Yeah.
We'll be back with the Patreon song challenge.
I can't
next
believe they
week.
got that one. That's obscure. The Gummy Bears theme. I think
It's not that obscure.
When I think of the gummies, I think of remember that song, "I'm a gummy bear."
That's
I'm
obscure,
a gummy bear.
and that's dumb.
We used to use that to put my kid to sleep. He used to love that song.
Boy, I know why he has so much trouble.
He's
getting
in
through
any,
tonight.
any trouble? What are you talking about?
That's that would terrify me.
I'm gonna sick him on you. You're gonna lose an arm, sir.
Yeah, that's true. So next week, Aaron, we're gonna continue on the Amiga train with
The gamble train.
the
gamble train
the
keeps
gamble
on
train
rolling.
rolls through with the Settlers.
The Settlers.
Yeah.
Now I've played the Settlers of Catan a bunch of times.
This is. It would be wonderful
It's
if
sort of similar, right?
kind of.
You gather raw materials to build your village and your cities.
Yeah, I mean it's practically the same thing. So we record every Friday except when we don't.
Which is this next month. It's crazy time.
But you always click that little bell beside the subscription button, and you can get notified whenever we're recording. You can join the friendly folks in the chat, just like Pixels and Dawn, Duncan Styles, Paul H, Brutal Barracuda, Necro Nom, Chris Folds, all these guys. There's always a party in the chat room when we're recording, so feel free to join us. And also, don't forget that if you want to buy some of this awesome Amigos apparel, you can head over to tpublic.com/stores/AmigaTees and purchase some. We also have stickers, wall art, tote bags, everything. There's everything over there.
Stuffed animals, shot glasses.
That's right. And
skis, everything.
And finally, don't forget to check out our sister show, ARG Presents, where we discuss 2 games on a different classic system every week.
What do we got coming up next week, Bo?
This next week, we are going to be talking about games on the illustrious BBC Micro.
That's going to be... That's going to be out of control, Bo. That's the noise for our short circuit right there.
That's actually the startup chime with the BBC
Holy
Micro.
smoke, that's what that is?
All right, guys. We will see you next week for the Settlers. Until then, adios. All right. So I'm going to go hit the head real quick.
Attention chat room. Boat will be urinating now.
I've drank almost all of this Diet tonic water. It's the nastiest stuff I've ever
Why
had
do
in
you
my
keep
life.
drinking it if it's no good?
I can't stop.
Man, when you got up, it sounded like somebody breaking spaghetti. What was that?
It's my knees.
My God.
Tiring me out. This
Man,
Ido stuff.
did you have a career in professional baseball or something? I don't know if that came over the microphone, man. It sounded like somebody broke a batch of sticks.
I
Right
know,
there.
it's terrible. I'm old. I'm decrepit.
You're younger than me.
Maybe in years.
It's what they say. It's not the age, it's the mileage.
That's right.
Clearly, you got a lot of miles on you, pal. Hit the head, it means use the restroom, Paul. I believe that's not an American term, is it? I don't know. Yeah, we're really, yeah, when he said it's a party in the chat room, it looks like a party. Oh, drain the main vein, or have a bit of a slash. I watch a lot of Ab Fab. I remember hearing that on there. Hey, did you guys that are in the chat room right now, how many of you fellows have given the Settlers a go? Because I'm not going to lie to you, I had perpetual, continual, non-stop difficulty. Yeah, obviously you. Trying to figure this thing out. And thankfully, Boat had a real good go at it. Because I had trouble. This was a rough week for gaming. I had all kinds of trouble with the Virtual Boy on ARG. That thing, my usual go-to emulators would not run it properly, so I had to resort to going to a web-based emulation for it to get the play halfway decent. The 2-player looks like it might be fun on there. I'd say. Take it easy, Brutal man. Thanks for stopping by. Especially on no notice. Oh, cooked dinner, yeah. Over here, it's 11 a.m. here, early. So we're getting out of bed early today. I've got to go do. We know we should have mentioned this, but it's Mother's Day here, so we should have said hi to our moms. I guess we'll have to do that later. I'll do that later. Do they have Mother's Day over in other countries, or is that an American thing? Geez, 4 p.m., eh? That's crazy. March, yeah. So I'm guessing it's not. You do have it, but it's not today, yeah. And I guess so. You guys have Mother's Day, Father's Day, the whole shtick. My kid informed me yesterday that why isn't there a Kid Day? I didn't have an answer for him. Did you guys play Wiz and Liz, by the way? It's a pretty good game. Wow. Where are you flying? Where are you flying to, Pixel? Yeah, every day. That's what I said. You're flying out. Oh, Seattle, eh? Yeah, no kidding, Duncan. That's what I was just thinking. You ever seen that Simpsons where they celebrate Love Day? It's just make up days. I didn't think that. It's amazing that the greeting card companies had that much sway. Oh wow, 3-week holiday road trip, eh? Not bad. Hopefully it won't rain the whole time, man. I listened to a podcast out of Seattle. Well, actually, it's near Seattle, and I know they get a ton of rain up there. I don't know if this is the wet season or not. Oh, yeah. Good point. Hey, Andy. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We're getting ready to do one more. We're going to go down and do one more Amigos, and then we're going to call it a day. And then I guess, but we'll have to pick up an ARG. We'll probably have to shoot a one-shot next week. That's easy to do, though. We don't have any problem doing that. No. Yeah. Let me get my other. I got to get my other things. I'll be right back. Boat has just rejoined us, guys.
What are your other things?
My other sheet. I've got to get my other sheet. What are you looking for, Lauren? When you got back? What happened back there?
It's still not over.
Things too unspeakable.
No, France just had another terror attack. So
Oh no! Are you kidding me?
it doesn't fill me with great delight, saying that we're going to be there next week, and it's in central Paris. Just one person, but it's another knife-wielding crazy person.
It's a tough time to go to Europe, dude.
Well, it's a tough time to be here too. I don't know if you've noticed, but we're not short on killers in the States.
I mean, if we have, well, these ours are homegrown, I think.
Yeah, there is R2.
Oh, that one was no.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no happiness to it, that's for sure. So, here's how I figured we'd do this one, Boat. And you've got some questions. You can save those till the end.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll forgo
do that.
the news.
Yeah,
And
we'll
then
do
I
that
can-
instead of the news,
And
and
I've
then
got
we'll do.
this right here. We'll give you. I've got some good stuff.
What do you want? Well, you want to do question? No, let's do. We got to do the questions are good questions, and we'll talk about them for a long time. So.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I want to bookmark the places I want to.
Hey, Andy, welcome.
Find some good stuff here.
I hope you have a good trip, Pixels.
Yeah, he's going out to Seattle.
Oh, yeah, get this set up here. Settlers.
You remember who gave us this particular magazine, Bud?
I don't even recall ever seeing that. You must have taken it the day after we got it.
Well, yeah, that's right. You never get to see it because I'm keeping it.
That's all right.
I'll never let you see it. all mine. Mine.
All right. Media source. Remove. All right. Looks pretty good. You want to mic back up?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I knew exactly where I wanted that. So we'll do the intro, and then we'll
Do that thing.
be very careful what you ask me about this game. I'm just telling
All
you.
right.
This is going to be a boat joint. No pressure.
I won't even ask you. I'll just
I'll just chime in.
you give me the background and do your normal shtick, and then I'll
Shtick.
I'll take over.
Whoosh. I'm going to give you the Antonio Inoki, just his thing in Japan. People in the streets. You know, Antonio Inoki, the most famous wrestler in Japan that's not Ricky Dozan, right? So he's world renowned. He's the one that fought Muhammad Ali, right? Very, very famous in Japan.
In a real fight?
Yeah, he fought him well, it depends. It was real. Yeah, it was a very famous boxer versus wrestler fight for Japan. And, but his chops are world famous, right? And so people will come up in the street and be like, and they'll request it. He'll walk up and just go, whack, and smack the hell out of them.
Really?
Right? And I've seen a show where he used to run these like MMA wrestling hybrid shows, and he would go in the ring, and they'd have a line of people that were ready to see him, and they'd all have their shirts off, and he'd just go like, whack, whack, like an assembly line.
Oh my God.
Just whacking people, because it was like, I don't know if it's good luck or I don't know what it is.
I wouldn't want to take a chop from him.
Oh, I would. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Really?
Yeah, it's Antonio Inoki, man.
That seems like it would be painful.
Bode, come on, man. Planting a tree in the front yard, then shove one, that's painful. You're being anointed. He does it. Come on, man.
All right.
This is some high-dollar conversation here.
Where is that, Andy? The Vintage Computer Festival East is probably up in New York or someplace like that. Do you know where that is?
No, that's one thing. I am going to make one little announcement here. Now think about it. There was one thing.
Yeah, we need to. We'll also plug.
Yeah, the
Amigathon.
Yeah.
Which.
So we're gonna.
I wish I had that page ready. I should have done that last night instead of sat around and watched Beyond the Mat again for the 14th time.
You're a strange man, Boat. Why that? I mean, I like that, but it just strikes me as odd.
I don't know. Sometimes I just put it on to comfort me. Let's see.
That comforts you?
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have 2 bits of news. So we will do a brief news period.
Okay.
When'd you say you're leaving town?
For France, we're leaving on June 10th. I'm just going to throw something up here. I'll probably change this. Let's see. We need pixel art.
The one looks like we're peeing.
It does. I'm tempted to make that our profile.
No, for God's sake, we're raising money for charity. Here's us peeing. Someone made a comment about that too when it was up there. I was like, yeah, there they are. You know what's great? It's when everything you want to do just turns to crap. I just want to load up this one page to get a date. Nah. No. You get nothing. All right. Hey, good job, Boat. That looks like us and everything.
Yeah.
All right. I got the Gambletron ready to go here.
Okay.
So here's what we'll do. We'll do the intro. We'll do the 2 news items I've got, which I'm just going to talk about Korgs, and then we'll talk about this, the marathon, and then we'll jump into our wacky. We'll just do 4 or 5 of these, or however many, how long it takes. We'll do 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, and then we'll hop into the game.
Here's what I think we should do. Since we're doing that, we'll do the questions as this week's Insert Disc 2. How you feel about that?
We're going to need the questions, I think. We'll see how it goes. If we've got time at the end, we'll get the questions in, all right?
Okay. All right.
Because we've got Insert Disc 2 standing by.
What are you talking about?
The stuff you record over
Yeah, but we want to use that for the summer. Because we're going to need those shows for the summer. For when your Shane R. Monroe talk, which is probably not going to happen, right?
No, it will. Man, you have no faith, bro.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Life.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Take it to the house.
All right.
What was that?
It's my breath.
My God. So, that's where I'd look over and you'd be going, this. What's happening? No more of that water for you.
It's making me do weird things.
No kidding.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about the Settlers.
Ooh.
Yeah. But before we get into the Settlers, Aaron, you have a couple news items to get to, right?
Yeah, we'll just kick it off this week with a couple little tidbits. And these are sort of local interest, but we've got some people in here that might go to this, so you never know. So I've been neglecting mentioning that our local favorite con, or one of the two favorites we've got, is coming up in just a matter of weeks, and that's Korg's Con. You remember Korg's, bro?
I remember Korg's.
Columbia. It's from
Columbia Broadcasting System.
We're all flying down to Columbia. No, it's the Columbus Retro Gaming Group's yearly con. I usually catch this thing every year. This year it is June 2nd. From 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the McCoy Center in Hilliard, Ohio. It looks like it's going to be a good time. The usual suspects. Every year I tell myself I'm not coming back to this, but inevitably I go back because I can't help myself. And this year I've gotten into the vintage computer world a little more than I've been in the past. And so last year I saw some old Ataris, and I believe I saw a couple Japanese exclusive systems there. Like I think a fellow had a what was it, Sharp 68,000 or one of those systems. So if I could get that stuff for sale, and I'll tell you, a couple years ago, I'm kicking myself because they had some guy was selling the crap out of Famicoms, and I was like, man, Famicom, who'd want to buy one of those? And now I sort of kind of want one.
Oh yeah, I'd love to have a Famicom. Just imagine if you see an SG-1000 up there. Or a grandstand.
I would buy an SG-1000 like that. Although we can play all the SG-1000 stuff. I don't know how the Genesis, I guess it uses the same hardware as the SG, but I'm not sure about that. Because the Master System is sort of in the Genesis, but I don't know about that. Is the Master System made up of the SG-1000 to a certain degree?
I don't think so, because I don't think they ever released a converter or anything to play SG-1000 games on the Master System.
I think they will. I think it will play them, though. I think. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure about that. One thing's for sure, there won't be any Amiga stuff at Korg's unless we bring it. I've been there now for several years, and I don't think I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anything for the Amiga. It's such a rare item in the States that it's not something that pops up that much. But I almost guarantee you. In fact, I'll vow right here. If I see any Amiga stuff that show, I will buy it, no matter what it is. So with my luck, it'll be the stupidest. What's the stupidest thing you can buy for the Amiga? It'll be a copy of Top Banana.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Man, we display that with pride.
We could burn that once we get hold of it. Or first-person pinball. Which one's worse?
Oh, Top Banana.
No, I think first-person pinball's worse because Top Banana. There's a game.
Top Banana is a front to God, man.
Well, Top Banana is more annoying.
Yes.
But I mean, because it continually makes that horrible noise.
Right. And the game continuously destroys your eyeballs.
And I will say, first-person pinball did try to be innovative.
Right. There are.
That's a tough call.
There are interesting things about first-person pinball. The game's not good, but it's no Top Banana.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Top Banana there is a game there that you could play. First-person pinball, there is no game that I don't think you can play anything there. So anyway, Korg's, if you're in the area and you think you might want to go, drop me a line and maybe we could hook up or go together. I don't think. Are you planning on going to Korg's?
What's the date of Korg's?
June 2nd.
June 2nd.
It's a Saturday, June 2nd. I'm going to go down, man.
Maybe so. I might be into it.
And mess around and see what I can find. So it should be a good time. So if you're into it, drop me a line.
Another upcoming event coming up soon is let's see, it's Nightbot has banned this guy for some unknown reason, so I've got to
Chat.
Yeah, right.
I mean, during the show, you're also the chat administrator,
right.
master.
Andy Davis has delivered some news. Vintage Computer Festival East is coming up next weekend, which actually by the time this airs, it will already be over.
Oh, bummer.
So, but
how was it?
It was great. It was at the Info Age Science Center over in Wall, New Jersey. So hopefully,
Man, I've heard a lot of good things about that show too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
man, I've
Hopefully,
heard good
Will
things.
Williams and some of the guys in the upper New Englandish, New Delhi area of America, somewhere far away from West Virginia. Hopefully, those guys got up there and saw the goodness. I saw some great pictures from Vintage Computing Festival Southeast down in Georgia.
Yeah.
That looked like a really good time. So that's a really good network of shows here in the States.
You know, so a little tidbit. I saw this right before I came over. I thought it was neat. Do you remember the episode of the Guru Meditation where they spoke to that lady that was the artist? I think her name was Salmia. I can't remember. her last-
Salome.
I can't remember. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It was really
yeah.
good. They actually went out. There's a picture, and they went out and bought that woman an Amiga 1200.
Wow.
They actually.
That's
there's a
awesome.
picture of them presenting her at the Amiga 1200. I thought that was awful sweet of them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know where they got it or if they had it in their collection, but now that lady, she can finally she finally gets the computer of her dreams to do her art on. So I thought that was a nice little bit of news I saw before I came over. What else you got, Bo?
Well, the big news.
The big news?
The big news is that Amigathon is back. Amigathon 2018. I have created the page. This page is going to be slightly under construction. You can see that I've selected the wrong window here. It's just one of my mini tricks with OBS. So as I save this and we go to here, we can see if you go to extralife.org/participant/Amigathon. We have no easy URLs on this show.
Lots of slashes.
Amigathon 2018 is live. You can go here and donate. For every $1 you donate, we will play 1 minute of your favorite Amiga title. We're going to start at 6:30 in the morning here, which would allow our European listeners to complete the marathon with us at a not so unreasonable time as last year.
What time would that be in, say, the UK?
So they're 5 hours ahead of us, so about 11:30.
So that's not bad.
Yeah. Sorry, and so you'll be able to spend the whole day with us. Watch us play all the Amiga games, and there's going to be some fun stretch goals we're going to have. You can vote for which one of us gets a pie in the face at the end, there's some more surprises to be unveiled too. But go ahead and get those donations in early because the time slots are going to fill up quick. Once all time slots are filled, we're going to keep on playing. So as long as the money keeps coming in, we'll keep playing. We want to raise. Our goal is raise $1,000 this year for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And I know we can do it because we've got the best community around. The Amiga community is number one.
Yeah, it'll help those poor sick kids out. It's definitely a good outfit to go with. We did pretty good last year. I think we got somewhere near in the ballpark of that. And so hopefully this year we can exceed that in some way. It'll be interesting to get up at 6:30 in the morning, and
we'll be getting up before then. We're kicking off at 6:30.
Well, trust me, I'll be getting up at 6:27, and then staggering over here, and I may have to be driven. It'll be so early, but it'll be interesting to play. I don't think I've ever played any computer games that early in the morning.
Not unless you were still up from the night before.
Yeah. The only time I can imagine would be playing something that went all night. But it'll be fun. Hey, it's good. It's for charity.
Have you ever went on one of your big City of Heroes binges? Do you recall the sun coming up as you continued to play, streaming through the window at Mud Mountain?
And EverQuest was another one. When I was much younger and lived at home, I don't think I ever stayed up that late to play. But I would be up for BBSing. I would be up that early because I'd have something cooking.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
So there's that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good time. So, and I want to campaign early. For God's sakes, I'm begging you people. I'm begging you. Pay to have him hit with a pie.
Yeah.
It hurt so bad, and I want him to. He laughed. Oh, he mocked. I'm begging this guy to have Chad come over and muscle that pie into your face and see what you think about it.
And it's the same as last year. We'll keep a running tally of the totals, and it'll just be straight dollars. You know, in your donation, put the game that you want played and put who you want hit with the pie.
Oh, God. Man, I can't believe you're bringing that back.
Oh.
Just to spite me, too.
It was the biggest hit of Amigathon.
Oh, it was a big hit, all right. Good God, I got meringue in my ear from last year. I'm still trying to get out of there. Good God. Well, Bo, we didn't have a ton of news this week, so we're going to delve into one of our favorite activities, Guess the Price game.
Ooh.
And I've picked up, here it is. We've got, this was donated way back. This is the AC's Guide to Amiga. It's tons of prices and crazy stuff. I love this book. I look through it all the time.
These types of catalogs have gone by the wayside in the age of online, and it's a shame.
And so I want to get you a couple shots of hardware, but I've looked up some game prices too. I want to get your thoughts on.
Okay, now this is a U.S. based catalog.
This is a U.S. based
prices,
and we should probably give the year of this thing here. This was fall. Now this is perfect, by the way. This is fall winter of 90 to 91. So everything is still in play, right? And this was an expensive item, by the way, 10 buckaroos for this thing. So this was not a cheap get back in the day. And this was donated to us. And I honestly, do you remember who it was that donated? I can't remember off the top of my head. Whoever it was, we appreciate it because we've gotten a lot of magazines. No, Ravi, this would have been from someone in the U.S.
Either maybe Tapes from the Crypt, or maybe, I'm trying to think, or maybe Will Williams, or maybe even John Marshall.
Yeah, it's one of our U.S. listeners, and we appreciate it. And heck, if it was you, drop us a line so we can give you full credit. So, but we're going to start off easy here, just as easy as pie.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to delve into the realm of memory expansion.
Memory.
Okay, memory expansion. Okay, now I'm looking right here as I blindly stare into it because I know I'm just getting ready for the mockery, so I'm going to preempt it. Okay, I'm looking here at a 2 meg memory expansion for the Amiga 500. All right, easy as pie, and it also has a hard drive interface on it. This is 91. Give me your best guess on what it costs. 2 megs. That's an expansive amount of memory right there.
And a hard drive expansion. Is that like a SCSI?
That's a SCSI, correct?
Yeah. I'm going to guess $149.99.
Okay. Wrong. So very wrong. In 1991, you would be paying $270.
Oh wow, way off.
$270.
Twice the price, I thought.
Well, you know,
memory was expensive back in the day.
It absolutely was. Now, let's go into more of a weird accessories here. Let me find something really good. So here is now this is something that was a popular item. The Amy Sound. It's a 3-in-1 peripheral box that gives you a monitor stand, a power center, and a stereo amp. Right, this is just one of those. This is generic as pie. Okay, you know what I'm saying? It's just a.
You're really into this pie thing.
That's right, because I like pie. Right, so
like pies in the face.
Now, so this is, this is generic. It's not even a plug-in. It's a thing that you set your monitor on that gives you speakers. Right?
Does it come with the speakers, or is it just an amp?
Comes with the speakers. It's simple stuff. How much do you think for this?
I'm guessing that is probably going to be $200.
Wrong. It's $100.
Oh my gosh!
$100. It's just a set of speakers and a stand.
But with an amp and everything, I thought.
Listen, how much? Do you ever go to Radio Shack and get those speakers? Come on, man.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Are you kidding me? Okay, now we're going to get some games in here. So I looked through these games, and these games, the prices are kind of wacky, man. Okay, so here we're going to go a couple you haven't heard of and a couple you have. I just want to get because. Believe it or not, these game prices sort of vary wildly. Okay, so Shadow of the Beast. Okay, this is 91. You get the and the pitch for this is great. 13 levels, high-speed parallax scrolling, 350 screens. Bode.
That's when they used to measure screens as like a statistic.
A 900K soundtrack.
Wow,
how about that?
That's a lot of Ks.
And 132 different monsters to delight you.
Delight is stretching it.
Includes original design T-shirt by Roger Dean. Okay, so what would you pay for this in the U.S.?
$49.99.
You got it almost to the penny. $49.95.
The games are what I know. I don't know about speaker stands. I don't know about
That's
memory.
Pretty good, Bo. I have to give you credit on that. So let's try another one of those since you nailed that one. I'm impressed. I'm impressed by that one. I'll give you credit on that one. So let's try another one of your favorites here. Let me see what we got here. Let's go with The Bard's Tale.
Okay.
All right? The Bard's Tale, okay? And you know The Bard's Tale. You got sound effects, music, 85 spells.
85, right? Huh?
So this is 91. Right? What's the Bard's Tale going for these days? Now, I want to say, I want to preface this that they've got the Bard's Tale 2 here too.
Right.
So, and we'll go for that one next.
Okay.
So this would have been probably a year or two old at this point.
This is a vintage release. I'm going to say $30, $29.99.
No. 1995.
Okay.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
So just while we're here, Bard's Tale 2. Where do you place that one?
I'd say that one is probably $29.
$60.
Whoa!
$60 to
Holy
get.
cow! That's crazy. How many discs is that?
I don't know, man, but it's $60 bills, man. It's
Bard's Tale's
it's a
digging
few
its
bucks.
own grave right there.
Let's do one more. I think we got time.
That's like $8,000 in today's money.
It's not $8,000. I don't know how much it would be today's money, but it wouldn't be that much. Let me find a real winner here, Bo.
This diet tonic water is so nasty.
Tell those people what you're drinking.
I got this. They didn't have seltzer water at Walmart. And so I was like, well, tonic water, I like a good gin and tonic. I'll just drink some tonic water instead of seltzer water. This stuff, and part of it is that it's diet tonic water, so it's got that weird aftertaste with the whatever they use to make it sweet. But man, it's the worst. And I've drank this is a whole liter.
How many calories are in regular water?
Well, regular tonic water is full of sugar, so it's like the same as Sprite or something like that. But diet tonic water, it's calorie free, but it's nasty. Oh God, it's bad.
Okay, I got one more here for you.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
This is an accelerator. All right. This is the Add Speed Supercharge Your Amiga with this 14.3 megahertz CPU accelerator. All right.
Okay.
Double. By using a 68,000 and ICD's unique sync switch allows changing speeds on the fly without rebooting the computer. I had one of these, by the way. It's similar. Easy installation involves unplugging the CPU and plugging in Add Speed into the socket. Works on all Amiga 68,000 base computers. So what this means is it's the old gimmick where you pull out your 68,000, you'd stick this thing in the socket, you'd stick your processor on top.
Mm-hmm.
1991 prices. Again, this doubles the speed of the 68,000 to 14.3 megahertz. What do you think this is going to run?
I'm going to guess $299.
$299, not bad, not close. The actual retail price $349.
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem with these things. Since it came up, a lot of games didn't like them, and so it would screw things up.
So your Workbench would run super fast, but then when you try to load
some of the games would work, but and also a lot of times it didn't make a difference. That's the Amiga acceleration is a weird business. It really is. But I don't know what it was, but I had mine turned off more than I had it turned on.
Did a lot of Amiga games do the early PC thing where they base their speed off the clock speed of the CPU?
I was thinking about that when I was reading that. I don't remember ever seeing it go, because the PC would be crazy fast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that happening on the Amiga. So I'm guessing that's not how it worked. I think a lot of the reasons that some stuff would work with them and some stuff wouldn't is just because there was a lot of programming tricks, or it could be copy protection stuff. Like I said, the Amiga was not friendly to wacky peripherals. I mean, no matter how good they were, there was no peripheral you could ever leave in. Even when I had the Amiga 1000, and I just had a simple 2 meg card on the side, sort of like the one you tried to price earlier. All it did was just memory. It just stuck in the side port. That's all it did. I had to take it out all the time. I even had one. I got one that had a switch on it that would turn it off, and even sometimes I'd still have to unplug it.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know why, but whatever it was, it would sense it. It was like, we're not buying it. I'm not going to use it.
Anything that's third party. The designers of the Amiga had no idea that people were going to be building these things, and I'm sure that it was weird.
I should mention before we get into the game this week that I don't know what it was I read, but I had this uncontrollable urge to buy an Amiga 1000. I was dying to have one. And there's one up for sale.
Local?
No, it was on eBay. And it was a best offer situation. Untested, the whole 9 yards. And I actually made a couple offers on this thing. I'm kicking myself now. I didn't win it, but I almost did.
What did it end up selling for?
It's still available.
Oh, okay.
So the temptation is still there. I think it's when you were talking about the aesthetic of the Amiga 1000 last week. It got me. I was listening to one of our old shows that we were talking about, and I was like, man, I do miss that. It has a great look to it. Mm-hmm. The area where you could slide your keyboard under it. It's a gorgeous little unit. And I'd watched a video that we talked about last week about this rejuvenator that the fellow over at Amiga Love is trying to get mass produced. I think we mentioned it last week. His video was up. And I think we mentioned, if we're not, we're mentioning it now.
For those that didn't listen, what is the Rejuvenator?
Well, what this thing is, he found this old, rare Amiga 1000 add-on board that gives the Amiga 1000 a bunch of, it basically brings it up to the level of, say, a 500 with some extra memory and some other stuff. It's a nice little addition. And they're apparently a really rare item, and what he's trying to do is get a campaign started to recreate these to sell now. So it'd basically be a piece of classic hardware that would be made with new parts.
Okay.
You know, a complete rerun. And he had gone so far as to try to contact the guy that engineered it, I guess, and who he thinks lives up in Columbus. I think. And he
maybe you'll see him at Corks.
And he worked just outside of Cincinnati. And so he was looking for people to try to help him contact this guy to get some schematics or specs on it or whatever. But it got me to thinking about how much I like the 1000. And of all the computers I've had, that one was the one. I mean, really, the case, it's the most functional. You could sit your monitor on it. In a lot of ways, it's got the smallest footprint, just because you could put a monitor on it, you know.
That fact cannot be undersold.
And I do like the fact that it was the first Amiga. It's still mostly functional.
Right.
I mean, with today's stuff,
most
a lot
of the
it,
games that I'd want to play can run just fine on it.
And I love the signature stuff. I wish they were kind of on the outside instead of the inside. You can't really pop the cover off, but just a wax on that. But I've almost bought it. I talked myself out of it finally after he turned down my second offer, but it's been on my mind. I don't know why. So that much said, we should go ahead and get into it, I think,
All right,
Booster.
let's talk about the Settlers.
So, the Settlers. Now, I mentioned this last week. I had played the game Settlers of Catan. I know you've played it as well. I remember, do you like that game?
I do. I've never, it's an interesting fact, I've never once played it in person. I've only played it on the 360.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding. I wonder... I guess that board game came after this video game. I don't know when.
Oh yeah, I mean Settlers came out in the 2000s.
I just have to wonder if there was some inspiration.
I don't think so.
This game, I mean, it does.
Settlers
I don't
is
mean
kind of a common name.
I don't mean gameplay wise, but I mean you're strategically placing people in certain areas to get the certain materials. There's some similarities to it. It makes me wonder. That's all I'm saying.
Feel free to wonder.
So, The Settlers. This game came out in '93 on 3 discs, and it was published by an outfit called Blue Byte. As far as I could tell, they were the ones that put it together. Blue Byte, I know them because they actually do my favorite tennis game, Great Courts 2, which I'm sure you haven't played.
Is that so? It's good.
It's my favorite Amiga tennis game.
Wow.
I remember it distinctly. I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but I remember there was on my Amiga 1000. So we were just talking about it. I didn't have that much memory, and so it would run in black and white. And I remember how annoying that was. And of course, it was in PAL, so I couldn't see anything past the back line on the side close to you was. So your guy could run past where the screen was.
Oh wow!
You know, so yeah, same old story. But I knew them from that game. I was always a big fan. Of the game.
So your favorite tennis game on the Amiga was both black and white and unplayable.
No. Listen, you're making it sound horrible. In color, it's good, and in the PAL thing, what are you going to do? One of the things I mentioned is the same guy that did the music on that did the music on this, so I'll give him props for that. Anyway, this game actually shipped with English and French. You can get a French version of it. It was coded by a guy named Volker Werdich, and he was responsible for another game called Emerald Mine, which I've never played or heard of. And the graphics were done by Christoph Warner and Ingo Frick. They did a game called Ketchum, which I like, and Escape from Tharkin. Again, I've never heard of either one of these. This game ran on the ECS OCS and had a PC conversion. Now get this. Did you read about the PC conversion of this? The name of this is appalling. I couldn't believe it. The name of this is called Surf City, spelled with an E, : Life is Futile.
Oh my gosh. That's the worst. That's worse than Moonstone, A Hard Day's Night.
No, this is much worse.
Yeah.
Surf City,
oh my gosh.
Life is Futile. That name is horrible. That's a turn off name if you ever heard one. So this was also sent over to a few more ports. Of course, later on in its life, it got an OS X port. It's on iOS. Symbian, all right, weird. This game was the first of a series of games that came in after the original that was quite popular. That went on. I mean, I looked at all. There was like a ton of these things. I mean, they've had like I think they're up to like 8 or 9 or something. Have you ever played any of these games not on the Amiga?
I think it was Pixels at Dawn was talking about the Settlers 2. No, it wasn't on my stream because he wasn't there. Because I remember he's the one that picked this game. But there was somebody in the stream that was talking about how Settlers 2 on the PC, that was the one that they played mostly, and they said that it was vastly superior in terms of UI.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. So this game opens up with a cute little video of a knight coming back from God knows what, and it just shows him going through town. It's in the Amiga style of animation. It
looks very cool. Yeah,
I particularly like the blacksmith that's pounding on the gimmick as the knight rides by the window. I think it's cool. He ends up riding into a castle. It's a real cute opening for the game. And the graphics in this, including simulated lens flares and stuff, they really went all out to make this look like an attractive game. So, but when you boil this down, this is sort of a real-time strategy game, but it's not really that like fighting-based real-time strategy. It's more of a materials type game, I guess is the way you would put it. Right out of the gate, the first thing you notice is that it's a very attractive game. They've used a lot of colors. That the ground looks nice. The little buildings are cute. The little people are cool. They go around. They do the little tasks. They look pretty neat. And since you're the master strategist here, why don't you run down the actual gameplay of the Settlers here?
Okay, so the way that this game took me a while to grok. What made it click for me is I just had to think about it like a game like StarCraft or Warcraft played at the most excruciatingly slow glacial pace you can imagine, with very comparatively little focus on combat. Now, that makes it sound like I didn't like it. I actually liked it quite a bit. I liked the slow pace because the thing that I hate about Warcraft and StarCraft is I'll spend all this time building up this thing and then just within 30 seconds I'll be overrun and the game is over. And that's not what this game is. This game, you set up your resource production. You put out your tree cutter, your tree planter. You've got your stone carver, and you start building things. Once you have those raw materials, you can start building things. Whenever you build, you've got your builders. They come out of the castle and they start to construct. And these things are not constructed in 10 seconds or 20 seconds. It takes minutes.
It does.
For these things to be constructed. So of course it's not real time, but it feels a heck of a lot more like real time. And you see the structure being built. You have the wood timbers. They go up first, the frame of the structure, and then it's slowly filled up with stone or whatever. And so it's very rewarding when you finally complete this building. You're like, wow, this is a big deal.
Yeah, after your castle goes up, like at the beginning where you place, I was like, okay, here we go.
Right.
I was like, let's plant some buildings.
No.
I was like, man, it's like construction in real time.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Your workers, unlike StarCraft or Warcraft, where your builders will just run across the field to wherever you tell them to build, your guys will only travel along roads. They're very scared to go off the path, and so you have to build a path from your castle to whatever building site you choose. And you can only build from certain points on your road. Now, I think that there's a way later on after the stream. Somebody told me there was a way that you could build roads without having the flags, but the way that I played it is I'd have to plant a flag and then branch my road off that flag point. And so basically the way the game works is you're able, as you build resource production things, you can build new buildings that do different things, and you can build mines where you can get gold to pay the people that live in your village. You know, they're mostly used to pay the military. You actually send a prospector up into the hills to tell you what resource you have, so you make sure you build the right mine there. And the economic system in this game is very deep in terms of, you know, the way, the order in which you have to produce resources to get other resources. The combat in this game is based on your military buildings. Your military buildings house different degrees of fighters. So there's different forms of knights. There's mounted knights. There's captains. There's your normal run-of-the-mill knight. And what you do is, in order to engage in combat, you have your knight leave his structure. You go over to the next town over. You find their military structure, and you click on it. And the knight will slowly amble over to that military structure and attack whoever is living in it. It's very rock, paper, scissors based combat. If you have a knight of the same class, it's more luck based, but if you're going up against a higher knight, you're going to be screwed. He's going to beat you every time. If you win that battle, several adjacent structures to that military building catch on fire,
yes.
And your territory expands into that territory, which was where the military building was. So the idea is, to win the game, you have to destroy all of the military buildings of your opponent.
It's fun to watch the little guys run around at their
they're acting like their house is on fire.
Head back to the castle, their bone.
So that's the game in a nutshell. So playing the game, this game is inscrutable, even with the directions. The directions don't do a good job of explaining. They lay out all the concepts of the game, but they don't do it in a way that makes sense to your modern reader. I suppose if you were playing this game coming at it fresh in the early 90s, and you grew up on cryptic instruction manuals, you probably had an easier time. But you know, the downfall of so many of these games that we're asked to play on Amigos is that there are these games who have concepts in modern games, but without any of the things that make modern games easy to jump into. The biggest fault of this game is that there is no text in the game. You're entirely dependent on the reference card that comes with the game and the instruction book. So you're constantly having to refer, flip back and forth. And again, this is something that was totally normal back in the day, but when you're used to playing modern games, it's very aggravating.
I will say, God bless the person that, I don't remember who it was, that posted this in our Discord.
Yeah.
The little card, because I had no idea what was going on. I mean, you're right. I mean, I think they did this for the purposes of distributed to other countries, right? That's it's sort of that's something you see when they have done. It's going to be multilingual.
Absolutely,
yeah.
I'm sure that was a big part of it, and you see that with board games all the time too.
Yeah,
whenever
absolutely.
They're shipping something to other countries, and that's why I just have Jamie explain all the board games too, because I can't figure them out.
We needed Jamie to come down for this one.
Yeah, and so that's basically the game. Somebody that is an expert at this game could probably go on for hours and hours about the ins and outs of it.
This is a tough game to grasp in the amount of time we had to look at it. I struggled mightily. You're more familiar with the real-time strategy games than I am, and the interface, to me, again, being a new person at this level, was not what I would call intuitive. I had a rough time understanding exactly what. I mean, I could place buildings and that sort of thing, but I had trouble. There were things I just didn't understand, and I had to read the instructions a couple times. It was just, I don't know, I didn't grasp it very well.
The biggest hindrance to this game is that they didn't put a huge disclaimer on the front that in a normal game, you've got a 2-button mouse. And so when you left-click on something, it's usually move. When you right-click on something, it's usually an informational button, or it opens up more options.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, the double button.
In this game, that's not the case. You have to hold down the right button and then press the left button to open up that special menu, which is so stupid because the right button doesn't do anything half the time.
I found out about that accidentally. As I sat there, I was like, what am I doing? So that's when I was like, it's time to read the docs on this.
Yeah.
This isn't a pick-up-and-play game. You have to sit down and study.
And so, again, this is probably something that they fixed in Settlers 2. And but I mean, it's just it it was infuriating to me that I was having so much trouble just because I didn't get that one concept of the double click.
Of course, once you get it, at least
things become a lot clearer. I really like the way that the settlers are, the way that they look. They're very well animated for being such little sprites. They've got a lot of personality.
You feel bad when your stuff gets blown up or,
Right.
or fire, it's on fire, and those guys come staggering out.
Yeah.
In fact, you're like, oh man.
Yeah, and
They
I like.
and the thing is, they worked forever to build that thing.
Right.
It's like crap.
And I like the way, when they're carrying timber out to the site, you see them hauling it on there, just like you got your own little workforce out there. It's cool. When they drop off money to pay the knights, they actually walk up to the, to a certain point to the flag and drop the money off, and it's picked up by somebody else. So all that stuff is really cool. I think that this game was definitely ahead of its time in terms of the scope of the game. It probably, set the stage for so many things to follow. I think the original Warcraft probably came out maybe 3 or 4 years after this, and I know that they borrowed things from it because it's just so groundbreaking.
It's incredibly. It seems incredibly deep. It's scarily. There's a scary amount of stuff to do. I mean, just the mining aspect of it. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Then you've got to, there's a lot of economics, I guess, to it. Again, beyond my ability to understand.
And everything is displayed in graph form, which instead of numbers, and that added another layer of complexity because I just have a hard time reading graphs. I was never good at that in school. And so I couldn't understand the different color-coded lines and things. And I'm sure, again, the documentation spells it all out. But unless you really pore over that thing, I liken this back in the day when I would get, you go to the mall with your parents because I couldn't drive, and you buy a computer game and it comes with this big, thick manual, and you're like, yes, because the rest of the time when you're waiting on your mom at Penny's or whatever, you crack that thing open and you absorb the whole thing in the car on the way home. So by the time you get home, you're ready. Well, with this, with this game, I didn't have that free time to go and really pour through it and memorize all these things.
I printed the manual out. After I struggled for my first night of trying it, I was like, okay, let's go back and print out the manual. I remember we tried to play this one time. We couldn't even get past the copy protection.
Yeah.
You remember that? That was a while back. So I was happy to at least get into the game and play it. But even if I had a good grasp of the rules, RTS stuff is, as I've said many times, is not an area I delve into that much. So you take what I say about it with a grain of salt. But that said, I like the depth to a certain degree, and I like the pace. Again, this is another game that's kind of slow.
Yeah.
And the pace of it is nice. I like the scenery. I like the fact that I like the area you have to work with. They do a good job of like replicating in what my mind's eye would perceive that this would look like and be like. It's some kind of pastoral setting. I like that stuff. I like the animation of the little guys. They looked cool. It's again, I like that. Trust me, when the first time that one of my guys got defeated and the buildings went up in flames, I was like, ah! That was I was shocked and alarmed. So they did a good job with that. I mean, there's a lot going on here, but I don't feel like a week, for me anyway, was enough to where I could get my head wrapped around it in its entirety.
Yeah.
And I've heard that the 2-player of this is outstanding, which I didn't get to try that either. But that's where a lot of the fun of this game lies, is adding a second player. And you can sort of see where that would happen.
Right.
This game's definitely made for a 2-player element. So I could see where it'd be a lot more fun with 2 people. And this might be one we'll have to try when we do some 2-player episodes down the line.
Yeah.
After a little more playtime. This is one, I think I could get this. I was getting there. I was getting to where I had an idea of what the hell I was doing. But it's going to take some more play to get there.
Yeah, Pixels, who's in the chat room right now, he makes an apt comparison. I found this to be very similar to Civilization when we played Civ on this, where the first Civilization game was much more difficult for me to grasp than jumping into something like Civilization 4, where so many of the hints and tips and things were directly on screen.
Yeah. Well, the difference, I actually grew up playing Civ 1, so that I had a little bit better understanding because I haven't played it before. But I think this is more complex than Civ.
Yeah, do you think this got an NTSC release?
Well, it got a DOS release, but I don't know. I mean, it would surprise me. Let's just put it that way. And I will say, let me see my eBay. No, I'll take that back. I did find discs in the U.S. that were available, so we're going to assume that those were NTSC discs. They don't normally sell the PAL discs over here,
Right.
so I guess it did get one. Again, the DOS version, that name is so bad. I don't know what they were thinking, and I've never heard of that. So I'm guessing the DOS version was a nothing happening version. So I guess the popularity of it overseas, because I've heard of the Settler series before this. So I'm guessing when they released the other versions here, they kept the name and they did better than the first one, because I've never heard of that one.
Right. Maybe it was that killer subtitle that really drove the sales.
This thing reviewed pretty well, Boat, as you can imagine. I mean, it's pretty beloved, to be honest with you. Amiga Computing gave it a 93. Amiga Down Under, I like that, 95. Amiga Format, 94. Amiga Magazine, 9 out of 10. Amiga Power, 88. There's always an outlier, right? AUI gave it a 97. I mean, these are great scores. CU Amiga, 90. I don't think this is one of the few games we've ever looked at that had scores of that level. And the people in Lemon, again, they're a tough bunch, 8.64 out of 10. So that's a pretty well-regarded game.
Yeah.
I think this was probably... We've come across a couple of these games that were sort of games of their time. I think this is probably one of them where it's tough to go back now with the interface such as it is, and years of being catered to, like you said, to go back and play one of these games like this, that where you had, I mean, like if you're going to play the old Ultimas, like Ultima 2 or 3, it's the same thing. They're so much more manual, and you're writing stuff down and doing all this crazy stuff that I guess we just got lazy. I'm guessing. So, but I mean, I know this game still has its followers, that's for sure. I looked this up on eBay, and again, you can get a disc. You can get the discs for $7 in the U.S. In Australia, you can get the box for $50, and in the UK, they've got them all day long, anywhere between $7 and $13 boxed. So, I mean, I would love to go over to the UK and just load up on games and bring them all home. You get a whole huge library over there.
Absolutely.
You know? I mean, over here, can you? When was the last time you saw a boxed Amiga game in the store anywhere?
I've never seen a boxed Amiga game anywhere.
I got that Sim City at the store that closed up here in Milton. That's the only time I think I've seen any Amiga games for. I mean, it's been decades. It sucks.
Yep,
we're getting screwed, bud.
Yeah.
So anyway, good game, I think. I mean, it seemed like the bones were there for a good game, but I just didn't have enough prowess at this. I know you did a lot better, but overall, one that it certainly needs further delving.
Right. Well, we want to thank Amigos Game Selection Committee member Pixels at Dawn for choosing this game for us this week. Thank you, Pixels. If you would like to choose a game for the Amigos to play, all you have to do is head on over to patreon.com/Amigos podcast and sign up for that Amigos Game Selection Committee member tier. I'd like to thank all of our Patreon supporters for helping us out here, and I'd like to do it in a very special way. Most weeks we do a competition where I will sing the Patreon names in a style reminiscent of someone else, and if you recognize the song, all you have to do is send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com. Yeah, that's right. That's the right. And I will announce your name as the winner. Last week we didn't have a competition because we pre-taped.
You won the competition last week by guessing every single name based on the Patreon's first name. That was incredible.
Well,
I couldn't believe that.
And so this week, here we go. Dan Rossleaf, Killand, Alan Kebab, Donald Tyler, Level Lord, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocher, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sargon Martinson, Edvin Helen, Blindo75, Christopher Hussal, Ravi Abbott, Chris Fullstream Catcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Bebke, Brent Dowdy, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Huckasey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Anthony Jarvis, Tips from the Crypt, Josh Nanwa Williams, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy, Humberstead, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warrens, Pixels at Dawn, and Kyo Bjorn Bauman.
I actually know that one.
Good.
I had to wait for the drum solo, but then I got it.
All right, and I'd
Wow.
like to remind everybody that we will be recording this coming Friday at 5:30 Eastern time.
Traffic dependent.
Yeah, we record ARG, our sister show, ARG Presents, Amigos, and Insert Disc 2 most Fridays. And so make sure you check that little bell box next to the subscription button on YouTube to be notified of whenever we're live. You can join the fine folks in the chat room like Duncan Styles, Pixels at Dawn, Daniel Cordell, and everybody else, Necronom, Andy Davis, who's listening. And thank you all so much in the chat room for joining us, Brutal Barracuda. It's always a party in the chat room with us, and you get to see all the stuff in between the shows, which is sometimes more entertaining than the
Which
shows
should never be
themselves.
released to the public. Hey, well, before you sum it up here, also I'd like to mention that we've got a hard push on. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we are nearing the 1,000 subscribers mark, and we would love, just as a personal happy moment, to get there. We've got a lot of good and talented people that are putting up some video, and that I don't mean us. I mean some of the your dream catches, your Duncan Styles, your Bro Barracudas, the Huck, all the people that have put up videos for us. Will has put out some, and we've got a lot of contributors. And hey, if you're interested in contributing something to the channel, man, drop us a line. We're always looking.
That's right.
You know, to add. I mean, it's a community YouTube Amiga free for all in there, and we would appreciate it if you would give it a look, and if you dig it, you know, drop us a subscribe, and it'd be great.
Absolutely. Aaron, next week it's mystery game.
Mystery game. You know what that means? We don't know what it is.
That's right. That's right. So you'll find out the same time we do this time.
Yeah.
This time next week. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Adios.
All right.
Bam. Just under the wire.
Yeah, I've got to pee again.
I've got to go again.
What? No, we haven't done Insert Disc 2 yet.
It's noon. I'm going to be at Tree's mom's.
No, you don't.
I'll give you 15 minutes.
Okay. We'll do one quick Insert Disc 2.
What are you having, Brutal, by the way? What's in the oven, sir? I got this. I got the music. I got the music in me, but I figured it out this week. Who we got in here? Toad in the hole? The hell is that? Is that food? Yeah, Daniel, what's the scoop on that, dude? I saw your post. We actually talked about it earlier. What does that mean? Like, number one on what? I don't even know what that site is. What is Toad in the hole, by the way? I gotta know. Wow, my uncle's giving away a very nice couch.
Really? You got to pick that up. Put it in your...
Well, the cats have just. By the way, Daniel's in here. I'm hoping to get him to explain the. He's pitched us again. Is that we're number one? What
it's
is
that player. If you search Amiga on player.fm.
Yeah. Hey, listen. What is Toad? Oh, he's having Toad in the hole.
Yeah, man.
So you know what that is too?
Yeah, Toad in the hole. It's a dish. It's a British dish. It's like Bubble and Squeak.
Nope. I thought that was a game.
No.
Okay.
Bubble and Squeak. These are the traditional British foods.
That's weird.
So yeah, Toad in the hole. It's like because there's like the sausage is the toad and the hole is the pastry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good to
And
me.
Bubble and Squeak is like fried up like
That
eggs
is a
and
game.
stuff.
I know there's a game called that, Bubble and Squeak. I know there was a game. Isn't there a game, somebody? So what are we going to talk about? You gonna?
I got one of these questions.
Okay. Are we on?
No.
Oh, okay. I can't even tell anymore. I knew it. Thank you, Duncan.
All right. It's an Amiga game, no less. All right, so here we go. Insert Disc 2.
Mug for the camera, boat.
So Figgy CTZ asks, what is your favorite game genre and why? And has it changed the last 30 years?
It's probably not changed. I guess my favorite arcade or my favorite genre would be arcade action type stuff. Like I kind of put a lot of arcade action games into one big category because like stuff like your Donkey Kongs, your elevator actions, everything. I love that stuff. I also love fighting games, so I'd put that. I mean, I guess that's a category. Right.
Your genre is very wide.
I like action. I like twitchy, actiony fun. That's what I like. How about that? Like things I don't get into that much are like, and obviously with a few exceptions of graphics adventure games or like.
So you hated like
games.
Queen of the Desert on Coco. Couldn't stand it.
I never played those a ton. There were some Coco games I get into, but that was all the games I had. That's the difference. You asked me what my favorites were. They weren't my favorites, Popeye was, something like that. I like that
So
stuff.
like arcade games.
Arcadey games. That's my stuff. And Amigos got quite a few of those. And not really shooters either. What about you? What's your? I mean, you like whole different set of stuff.
Things have definitely changed for me over the past 30 years. So when I was growing up, probably from the time that I was from when I started playing video games all the way up until probably college, I wanted really, really deep experiences. I liked, twitchy arcade games. I played a lot of arcade conversions on the Atari and the Nintendo and stuff like that. But my big thing was role-playing games. I was not good at traditional video games. Like I could never beat Super Mario Brothers or something like that. And I appreciated the fact that a role-playing game, you didn't have to have really good resources. You just had to have a lot of time. You could level your character up and you could beat this game no matter what. I also liked the complex systems in games. I was never a big PC role-playing guy, but even like games like Final Fantasy, it was a much deeper set of rules than a Super Mario Brothers or something like that. And when I did play PC games, I really liked games like SimCity and stuff like that, strategy games. I loved games that had really thick manuals that had, that you could really delve into and you could really say that you've mastered the mechanics of this game. However, once I started in college and became more, I had to adjust the amount of free time that I spent on playing games. I started to shift more towards the kind of games that you like, and that continues to this day. So I like a game that I can jump in and out of really quickly. I don't have, if I start to get into a game, like I've always thought, I wish that I could just pause time whenever I did anything that was entertainment. So I'd love to watch, like Wagner's The Ring Cycle, which is 16 hours long. But I just think about 16 hours, that's a huge time commitment that I could be doing something else in. And I feel guilty when I put that much time into something. I would love it. I would love to play the new Final Fantasy 14 or whatever. I think it would be a lot of fun, to jump back in and see what's different. But I know that I would feel guilty about the amount of time I'd have to put into it.
Yeah, we totally differ on the games. I like those games. I don't like at all. I could never console Japanese role playing games. I never could get into them. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just not my bag. The best I could do was like a Bard's Tale or Eye of the Beholder, and even those. I come from a role playing background, and I always thought they were left wanting of the actual role play. Like, at least one thing about Japanese role playing is you're not going to go out and play a D&D module that's like Final Fantasy, for example. But you could play some that were just like what you were playing in Bard's Tale and Eye of the Beholder. And if you didn't have a party to play with, those were okay. But I would rather just play with the actual people. So yeah, I guess that's why they were going to.
I think if I were going to get into something like that, I would much rather spend the time to really learn a pen and paper role playing system. I think that would be much more rewarding because the social interaction is there. Though also, the older I get, the more I appreciate video games as a social activity. Just being together with your buddies, because that's something that doesn't happen as much when you get older because people are busy, they've got families and stuff. So.
When you get real old, though, you're back in.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to once I hit 58 or whatever.
That's when that's when
I unleash the beast right there.
That's awesome. We got one more question from Paul. This is Paul, not Paul Harrington or Paul Kitching. This is another Paul. I don't know his last name. He's from Twitter.
McCartney.
Paul from Twitter. It's Paul McCartney. He says, "Hello to you both. I have a question for the podcast. If Amiga had if this is difficult to say.
What language does Paul speak?
If the Amiga had continued to grow and was still around today, what do you think it would have evolved into?"
If it was still, read that. Well, you distracted me with your wackiness. So read it one more time.
If the Amiga had continued to grow and was still around today, what do you think it would have evolved into?
Well, it would probably be a lot. I hate to say this. It would probably be a lot like what the Mac has evolved into, or Windows. And what would that be? A walled garden with a because where's the money at now? It's all online. It's all paid apps, stuff like that, paid games. It would probably be something like that in terms of the OS. I think they would have kept, because the Amiga OS obviously could be refined. It's been done. So I mean, I think I'm not saying it would be exactly the same setup, but I think that's where the money would be. I think that I mean, even the new ZX Spectrum is going to have a store element, right? And so I think that's the common thread. All right. In terms of hardware, I wonder if they could have ridden the Motorola. Motorola would have had to come up with some new stuff that would be in line with, like, I mean, you'd have to keep up with the Joneses, and you've got to have you got to have something that's in the same level as an i7, or something that ballpark, something really fast, and so you'd have to have something like that. So for Amiga to have continued, Motorola would have had to have stayed very active in the PC market, which they have to a certain degree, and I think you would have had more success in the States. I don't know if a computer could have progressed. I mean, because Windows now is pretty much a worldwide phenomenon, and Mac to a certain degree, but Windows, we're talking about the big dog, and so it's everywhere. It's not, and so computers aren't splintered like they were, in most countries. I'm sure in maybe some Middle East or somewhere like there might be they might have some local market computers, but most people use a Windows PC, right? So you're going to have Amiga would have had to have stretched out and been more dominant in America. They would have had a better showing over here, and so that would be part of it, which would be great. You could see why it went out, and it went out because Commodore was asleep at the wheel, right? And so what would have had to have happened is Commodore would have had to have been. I always wonder what would have happened if Atari had ended up purchasing Amiga like they had planned. We know all have heard that tale at the last minute, and I remember seeing the guy tell the story about how they screwed over Atari, and Trammell was off, blah. But I mean, really, what would have happened if Atari would have had Amiga technology? There would be no ST, right? And then so there would be that element gone from the equation of competition. Then you would have Amiga would be a more dominant factor in Europe for sure. And the ST did nothing in the States, so I don't know how much that would have affected their performance here. But Atari had a pretty good rep, a pretty good name. You would have had some action there. Would it have been? I mean, I think Ataris were more ingrained in the educational system here than the Commodore 64 was. So there's an element that thinks maybe you can get Amigas in the schools. But then again, the Mac got into a lot of schools, and the Mac's not really a huge player now, so it didn't have that big of an effect. So it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to. Well, I mean, I'm just spouting off. What do you think?
I think that if let's pretend like Amiga had like people that knew what they were doing at the top.
All right.
So let's throw all that stuff. Let's just pretend like they've got the ultimate team of people making decisions. They could have positioned the Amiga as what the Mac was trying to position itself as from the beginning. So instead of just trying to really say, well, we're not really a games machine, but we actually are a games machine because we realize that's why people are buying our thing. If they would have said, listen, we've got D-Paint, we've got desktop publishing, we've got the video toaster, we've got the ultimate multimedia machine for you if you run a production company or if you're involved in the arts at all. If they would have taken that angle from the top, then Apple, with their little 9-inch black and white screen, would have been a lot harder for them to get a foothold.
Yeah.
Because there's only a year difference in the launch of the Mac and the launch of the Amiga, and the first actual usable Mac didn't come out until about the time that the Amiga was launched anyway. Because the first Mac launched without enough RAM. Even the demo Mac had twice the amount of RAM that it eventually shipped with. So, you know, they had a foothold. They had a way to differentiate themselves against the PC, which was the juggernaut. If they would have taken that tack, but the problem is that they always walk the line between, is this a glorified game console or is this a productivity device? And Apple, probably for the best, always position themselves as, no, this is a business machine. You know, we don't. I'm sure there are people making games for it, but we're never going to talk about it. You never saw the Batman pack for a Mac. You know.
Yeah, you're right. You know, it's funny, and you know, I'm no Apple fan. And I'm not, and I don't use a Mac. It's funny that I own one, but part of me is very envious of the Mac people and the Apple computer people, and I don't mean the snooty ones or the upper crusty ones. I'm talking about your hardcore Apple people that have been with them from the jump street, because they have got to experience what I didn't get to experience. Is they took their little tiny computer and they've been able to ride it all these years. I mean, and Apple has not exactly done them any favors a few times.
Right.
And even to this day, it's not exactly doing them a lot of favors. It's tough to be a hobbyist, you know, Mac user.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you've been able to ride that wave all this time, and it would be so. And you're always the underdog, and that's sort of the Amiga community was a lot like that. We're the, you know, they're the ones that, you know, we don't got Windows. We had to put up with a bunch. We got a joystick with one button. We had to, you know, there was a lot of stuff. But I mean, that it really, you know, and there's still that's why the Amiga community is still a tight, you know, friendly bunch, is because we're all the long-suffering, you know, our planet exploded. Now we're just cast into space and we're just banded together, you know. And I'm jealous that those people got to embrace that system for as long as they have, and continue to show their fandom toward it. A functional, active system, and we're getting a little taste of it now that Amiga hardware is sort of, kind of in production, and there's sort of new stuff going on. It's kind of fun, you know. But there was a long drought where there was not much going on, and it was tough. You know, it was real tough. And where the Mac, they've pretty much always had something cooking. You know, so I will give them that.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because we're just now celebrating the 20th anniversary of the launch of the original iMac. And of course, you know, the iMac in many ways was not an ideal computer, but there were a lot of really important things that the Mac pioneered that we still see in computers today. For example, it was the first computer that launched with nothing but USB ports. You know,
I remember.
And at the time, people, where's my parallel port? I can't hook up my printer. You know,
Did they sound like Hicks
yes,
when they wanted a parallel port?
Hicks. Everybody that was using a parallel port was from West Virginia.
Man.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't, because that's astounding.
And so, and of course, you know, the big thing, which is there was no disk drive. You know, there's only a CD drive.
Yes.
And so, you know, at the time, people were like, well, that's never going to take off, you know, but here we are 20 years later and the iMac is still going. And you can look back, there's a continuity with Apple. You know, you can look back and say, well, this was a horrible decision. Apple did this and this and this wrong. But at the same time, you can say, well, you know, if you owned one of those back in the day, there's a certain amount of nostalgia where you see, you know, rose-colored glasses and you see things that, you know, if you look at the iMac, when I look at it, I'm filled with a sense of nostalgia, because I remember when it was new, and I wasn't a Mac person in 1998, but I still wanted one because it looked so different, you know. And of course, there were all the copycats that came out after it was launched, and you had all these horrible PCs that were translucent and stuff. But I have a certain,
and they were more usable, unfortunately, because they had all the ports. Listen, I have no love for the iMac. I thought it was a piece of garbage. They were cheap. They were ugly. People loved them. This is just me personally.
Sure. And I mean,
the lack of ports, just like Apple always does. We're the innovator. Well, we're getting rid of ports. People are still using these ports back in those days.
Sure.
People needed a floppy drive.
Yeah, and there were Apple people that were ticked off too, because, you know, remember,
they were gimmicky. Ignore that.
The iMac was only one of the machines in Apple's line, but people were scared that the Pro machines were going to go that way. And you know what an ADB port is? ADB was Apple's proprietary USB port. So they sold a billion accessories that were ADB compliant. That suddenly, if you spent $6 million on all these things, if you have an iMac, you're screwed, you know? And so, but it is, like you said, it's interesting that you can see continuity in a way that you really can't, even with, you know, with Windows machines. You look at the tower that you had in 93 or 94, 95, it still looks like that same tower that you have now.
And one thing I will, again, here I hate to shower the Apple with praise, but the Apple and the Amiga have a lot in common. And one thing is, they don't look like a PC. They look like their own thing.
Yeah.
When you look back at your old computer from, say, 20 years ago, right? It's a beige, generic-looking gimmick, you know, or maybe you bought a Gateway. I mean, they're just, you don't have, it's not like, boy, I love that machine. It looks so pretty. Unless you're like the guy from LGR who has these affinity fields. For me, I look back, like I never, like when it was time to chuck a motherboard out of an old beige box, that sucker was gone.
Right.
It was never coming back, right?
Yeah.
And when you were done with that video card in the old days, that's a chuck it. You know, and so I would take the same box and I would just use it for decades.
Right. Right.
Because the guts didn't matter. I wasn't like, boy, I can't. But like when I think, now here I am, I almost bought an Amiga 1000 this week. It's a beige box, but I mean, it's an Amiga. It looks different. It is different, you know.
Yeah.
And you're not chucking boards and putting new boards in that. I mean, that was the Amiga.
And that's why, you know, I know that you weren't a big fan of the Walker design, but that was something that was different.
It was.
You know,
I like to have one.
It's kind of like the Mac Cube or something like that. You know, it may be dopey and completely non-functional, but hey, when you look at it, you know it's not a PC. You know.
Yeah. And so I guess I'll tip my hat to the anniversary of the iMac. One thing about it is, and there were plenty, and you're right, it was copied. And obviously the iMac wasn't what I would call, I can't remember, was Jobs there when the iMac was put out?
That was the first thing that he launched.
Yeah, and you can tell it's his kind of gimmick. You know, it's ahead of the curve to a fault, right? It's made for people that sometimes will look at style over substance, right? And but I mean, you can't deny the fact that it was ripped off by everyone.
Another thing, you know, the I in the iMac stands for Internet. It was one of the first PCs that shipped standard with a LAN connectivity and the modem built in.
And that's a place where Windows dropped the ball early on, where Bill Gates didn't think the Internet was going to amount to anything. So I have to give the devil his due occasionally.
Yeah,
so
well, it's an important milestone in computer history, whether you like Apple or not, and it's worth talking about because we're on Insert Disc 2 and we got to talk about something.
But that ringing endorsement, take it to the houseboat.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Adios. Wow, that got into something there.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Bye, guys.
Bye.